Buckle up, everyone, and welcome to Carpool Rugby-League, a show where three Rugby League tragics talk everything Rugby League on your way to or from work. I'm Graham.
I'm Shano. I'm the Chameleon.
Welcome aboard, and on with the show. Yes, it's January, and you know what that means. It means that Rugby League season is not far away. Here we are in the off-season. As we record this, it's the 27th of January, hot off the heels of Australia Day. It's actually the public holiday today, technically, for those who are having the day off work, so happy Australia Day to all. But really, we're here to talk about Rugby League. The season is not too far away, and it's good to be back. It's been a while since I've been at the seat, I tell you.
I cannot tell you how happy I am that not to be in the driving seat, to have you in the driving seat and be able to do all the work that we used to do. It's great to hear your voice and also joined as always by the Chameleon. Welcome.
Yes, Chameleon. How's your off season been?
Yeah, it's been good, thanks. It's great that we've got captain back. He had the Liz Frank injury last year, kept him out for a year.
Yep.
He's back now. The team's back together. We're creating history here. It's the first time we've all been in the same location.
Yeah, it is.
Podcast.
This is the first time we did one post-COVID at your place, and then the last time before that was in the old school car.
But first time all in one place with the three-man commentary booth.
Most definitely. And
so
we were toying with the car, but we were at RBT's dream before we even picked up. So that's not even...
It would have had a field day with that one.
Yes, so it's as I said, great to be here. Campbell Graham. 2 Grahams, Campbell Graham.
I was going to say, I'm not the only Graham that was out for a year yet.
And was he 500 and something days, I think.
Yeah, wow.
I read yesterday. So both Grahams are back on board for the season.
Yeah, back on board for the season. The season's not too far away. As we said, the trials will be happening, or the what do they call it? Is that the pre-season challenge? Anyway,
really.
Yeah. Anyway, look, it's good for you to get out and see some football, see some of the young up-and-coming players to give you a bit of an idea of how your squads are going and the depths there. But I think, like every podcast, we want to get straight to the news. People want to hear what's going on. So it's time for Shano's Tidbits.
He's got the news. You need a face. It's time for Shano's Tidbits.
Okay, here's the tidbits. So we've got a couple of tidbits. I suppose the first tidbit, both tidbits are going to involve some discussion. So buckle up, people, and get ready. I'm going to do my first tidbit based on some data that's come out just recently regarding viewership of sport in Australia. For the first time in a very long time, the NRL lost ground to the AFL, to the point where the AFL viewership was actually more than the NRL viewership. Gentlemen, can you guess where they gained ground?
Sydney.
Where was the difference? The difference was in, Sydney a little bit. They gained a little bit of ground. Brisbane a little bit of ground.
Are you talking geographically or?
Western Australia and Adelaide. If you took Western Australia and Adelaide's data out of the pool, it actually meant the NRL were doing very well. Now, why am I bringing this up? We've got PNG coming into the competition, and yet Perth has gone silent. I think the NRL should change its name to the ESRL, the Eastern Seaboard Rugby League, because what's the furthest west team we have in the Rugby League right now?
The Raiders.
Right.
Yeah.
Western Melbourne.
I'm saying, okay, from the ocean, I would say that they are.
Jeez, I was getting Google Maps.
West team, right? So you're talking about Canberra being the most western team.
Yeah, give me a minute, mate. I'm a bit slow on the
Well, no, from the seaboard, definitely.
Yeah.
From the ocean, definitely. So the furthest west team from the ocean is Canberra. How far is the crow flies with Canberra be from the ocean?
Far enough.
Approximately.
Crow
flies.
Technically, Melbourne's further west, but I see what you mean.
But you know what I mean.
Inland, yeah, gotcha. From
inland. So the most inland western team would be Canberra. Melbourne, of course.
Yeah.
If you looked at it from the nearest ocean, was the crow flies, we're talking 100 k's from the ocean, there or thereabouts. Right? We've got to start as a rugby league. This data proves we've got to start getting Perth up and happening. I'm glad we got PNG. Don't get me wrong. I know it helps.
It's political, and
I know it helps.
Another podcast for another day.
All right, and we're going to talk about PNG as the year goes on. I'm sure of it. But we have to have. This is proof that we have to have a team in the West, and this is. And I think if we continue to lose ground, it's actually going to cause problems. What the AFL have done very strategically was, of course, they have two teams in the West. They've got the Eagles and the Dockers. What happens when the Dockers and Eagles play in the eastern states? You've got your viewership goes up. Okay, now I don't think Adelaide is there yet. I'm not going to say put a team in Adelaide, but for crying out loud, Griffo, how long have we been talking about putting a team in Perth?
Well, since long before the podcast.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just common sense. It'll happen. They just got to. I think they just got to dot the I's, cross the T's. I was going to say cross the I's and dot the T's, but they've got to do it. We've got to get.
Whatever they're doing, they do it.
The letter T. If you're in America right now, the letter T would stand for Trump. Trump at Vegas. Volandis wants it.
Yeah, right.
Volandis wants it. He's put an invitation out there. He says, to make America great again, you need rugby league, and Volandis wants Trump at Vegas.
They need him flogging around on one of the. Remember was it Billy Idol at the grand final? They need him.
Just on the hovercraft type thing. Yeah. What are they called? Hovercraft?
Yeah.
So Volandis extended an invitation to Trump to come to.
Regardless of what you like, imagine if he. That's.
I first saw this in Saturday's paper. It's actually in the Herald, which is quite strange because they don't usually post
If
it.
anything, it creates a bit of media buzz.
Well, what was actually interesting is I didn't know. I did a bit of digging around, and they know each other quite well. So
there you go.
There you go. Extended the invitation. He wants Trump there. If you've been living under a rugby league rock for the past this period of the off season, you wouldn't have realised that Ezra Mam has been handed his sentence, so to speak, 9 matches. It's 9 matches, a total of $120,000 fine, $30,000 by the NRL and $90,000 by Brisbane. I called bullshit on that to begin with.
Is that suspended or is that real?
Well, I've done a bit of digging. The NRL fine is real. That is real. Which is a drop in the ocean, really. Considering, you go back to 2015 when the Dogs had that Mad Monday where they were dancing naked down the street. I think as a club they got hit $250,000 fine. I just think this is absolutely. I'm not going to talk about the law and what he got legally. That's. I'm not a judge. I'm not. I don't have the cranial capacity to come close to that job. But what I am going to say is the NRL and the Brisbane Broncos are freaking kidding themselves if they think this is a justified suspension and fine for a guy who did more than his fair share of break the law in regards to driving, in regards to drug possession, in regards to drug taking, and in regards to fracturing a young person's hip. I just think this is an absolute joke. I think I am so angry when I think about what's happened here. He's back at training.
Yeah,
That's the biggest load of shit I've ever heard. The fact that guy, day one, is there at training, it is effing wrong. That kid who's
first 10 minutes we got the red.
that kid who's sitting at home,
Fair call though.
that's sitting at home with a fractured hip, mate. I would go to Brisbane Broncos training and I'd buy one of those big remember those big foam fingers you used to be able to get the cricket? I'd have a middle finger one. I'd write ma'am on it and I'd have it there at the fence the whole fucking time.
This is where
It's a joke.
This is where it's also too, like, obviously all of that, we can talk about, like, I think most people are, probably sitting there, nodding their head in agreement. And
Not Brisbane.
I know they're not. They've got a vested interest. Okay, part of our discussion later when we talk about Brisbane is going to be the Ben Hunt, Adam Reynolds combination that's going to have to start the first 9 rounds.
Yeah.
And then you'll blow up when you realise that the first game that Mavs back's against South Sydney.
No, but I know that, and that's not what I'm about. But what? They were looking for a loophole. They named him as a reserve grade player. And the NRL said, what are you doing? Oh, there's a loophole that says suspended players can play for the reserve grade. What? Yeah,
they shut it down.
Shut the loophole down. Brisbane Broncos are kidding themselves. They brought a guy, Matt Lodge, back into the fold. He was getting paid before any compensation was going to those poor German bastards. It's just blowing my mind that they're finding loophole after loophole. Mate Maguire gets on the press. Oh, I don't know what happened, but what we'll do is we'll do what's in the best interest of everyone involved. They did what's in the best interest of Brisbane, of course. And I'm not arrogant or ignorant enough to sit here and say that the clubs we go for haven't got the rub of the green at some point in time, right? But you're kidding yourself.
Yeah, but the thing is,
this guy's back.
We've also said along the way, like, we're going, hey, like, whether it be a player for whoever's club, I feel like more often than not we're saying that the NRL's not doing enough here in regards to how harsh the penalties are. And it's not just about the individual. I'd want to know if you're sitting there and you're the marketing people from the NRL and this stuff comes up, you're just going, this is a nightmare. You've just talked about getting more eyeballs on the game.
Yeah.
And how we're going to build the game, whether it be, geographically or through interest. And people are looking at this and let's be realistic. We love the game, but the stigma from those who follow those other sports like AFL and soccer are that, they're basically it's a game for thugs.
In 2019, the news.com, they had an article, they started with an article that absolutely lit the wick under the bell end of everyone at the NRL, because they said 66 scandals in 4 years that have rocked the NRL. And they ran with this story. It was part of the Telegraph. Luke Kinsella was the journalist. From that point on, the NRL said, we're going to draw a line in the sand, and anyone who remotely steps sideways in the off season, outside, off the field, is going to get met with the harshest penalty. What they said was, what happens on the field can sometimes be in the heat of the moment. What happens off the field is calculated. A grade 3 third offence, dangerous, a reckless high tackle is 8 weeks.
Yeah. So tackle gone wrong within a game.
Within the game on your third offence is 8 weeks.
Yeah.
That's 8 weeks. Okay, if you plead guilty, I think it's 7. So you're telling me that the NRL have said, well, we'll take the harshest penalty we can find, which is about 8 weeks.
Yeah.
And we'll give him 9.
Yeah.
And then what we'll do is we'll fine him $30,000. It's a drop in the ocean. As for this bloody 90,000 Brisbane.
Well, that's from his employer.
He's not paying 90,000 to Brisbane. That's bullshit.
Who knows?
That's like saying that the Raiders are going to find Ricky.
The press conference. Yeah.
Winning and misses for a dud route. It's not going to happen.
And this is where
It's not going to happen.
And this is where Brisbane, as an employee of Brisbane, they've gotten. Oh, we'll fix it in post. One take. No, it's no editing.
But will this
No,
be?
but,
Finding your husband because he's blue in 10 seconds. You know what I mean?
That's not getting any better.
Follow that. Anyway, I'm just gonna cut there, Shay.
I didn't want to.
I'm just going to say no, but you can obviously see. I suppose it's a very multifaceted situation, Griffo, where Ezra Mam is part of the Broncos. They're trying to, he's there. He's technically the NRL employee, but you know what I mean. They want him to play. They want to support. They obviously value him as a player in this squad. I mean, yeah. What are the implications going forward for the next thing? Does this set a precedent? That's what we often tend to say.
And that's a problem. I've blown a lot of smoke about this whole man thing over the last few months. I agree with everything Shane said. Firstly,
Everything?
Well, almost everything. I don't have a wife, so. But what I wasn't aware of with the fact that they were searching for a loophole that he could play reserve grade. I mean, that is just making a mockery of everything that that club purports to stand for. Okay, he's a key player. They didn't sack him. If he wasn't a key player, he would have been sacked. No doubt about that. The fact that the club has gone out of their way to try and get around a suspension by having this guy play, and that's a big advantage unless he got injured, rather than he turns up on round 10, basically cold. He's just trained as nothing else. He's game fit. I'm quite blown away by that, actually. So the Broncos have got a lot to answer for. But ultimately, the guy himself has got to answer for it. It's not his fault that he was hit with a feather by the Queensland legal system. I mean, I thought that was amazingly unbelievable. And found out later that he had 3 prior records.
Yeah, he's got form.
Driving.
That's why I brought up the 3.
Yeah,
that's why I brought up.
Oh, okay. Yep.
The third
crazy. Like, he got off lightly. I thought it was quite interesting that he's changed his wardrobe from turning up to the Dally M's with his suit cut off at the arms, his hair all over the shop. He turns up at court with a new suit that's actually got arms on it and a tie, and his hair's all been cut back, and it obviously impressed the judge. The first thing I read was basically Judge gives mum some sort of tongue lashing or something. So it wasn't that word, but it was something along that line. I read on it.
It must be a Brisbane thing.
Well, I think because, and I know that the charges that he got were quite light. So, I mean, the judge hands down the sentence, $850 and loss of license for 6 months when a license he didn't have. So, effectively,
That's right.
Yeah.
it's not $850.
That's right.
Now, it is what it is. I don't want to work myself up again, but I thought from the NRL, I could accept nothing less than a 6-month ban. I think it should have been banned for a year. Personally, I could have lived with 6 months out of the NRL. The fact of the matter is that while the judge in Brisbane, the Broncos themselves, and to a slightly lesser extent, the NRL have gone quite soft on Ezra Mam. Well, the public, whenever that guy plays, and I dare say for some years, Ezra Mam is going to be made aware of the fact that he got off lightly. There will be some in the crowd that believe he should be in a prison cell rather than a Rugby-League field. He will be made aware of that.
Can I just read some on-field and off-field discretions that have seen similar weeks, right? James Graham biting 12 weeks. Travis Burns high tackle, 9 weeks.
and that was, that was a bad one.
Yeah.
George Burgess eye gouge on Robbie Farah. Probably would have got 12 weeks, but it was Robbie. He only got 9. Tony Williams at dangerous throw, 10 weeks. Luke O'Donnell got 11 matches for breaking Michael Monaghan's jaw. Great. So when you look at it, John Hopewadi, remember John Hopewadi, 3 country contacts in 2001. He got 12 matches. Ben Barber was sacked by the Cowboys. Corey Norman was in possession of MDMA, got 8 matches. In possession. That's all he got. He was in possession.
Not that's good, but
it's not that's great.
Just
Again, I mentioned earlier that
playing apples and oranges.
2015 Bulldogs was hit with a $250,000 fine because they were dancing naked down the street. On their bad Monday, and of course, Matt Lodge was sacked by the Tigers. When he had his discretion.
The one that came to mind,
Mitchell Pearce.
yeah,
Mitchell
it's actually 8 years since that happened, and
Yeah,
I've just got it up
Mitchell
here to make sure. 8 weeks and $125,000 fine for his
for getting filmed doing something slightly off. It's a joke. And anyway,
we're just saying is it just doesn't seem to
the crime doesn't the punishment doesn't fit the crime.
no, and you got to wonder where. Yeah, and people start to ask questions. They'll be saying, well, from Brisbane, from the NRL's point of view, Todd Carney.
I'm not going to talk about Bubblegate because that's something else, right? Okay, that's something different.
That pretty much ended his career at the NRL.
He got sacked by the Roosters for drink driving. He got caught drink driving and got sacked by the Roosters.
Yeah. I'm not going to argue here. I think sometimes it depends on if they had a shit hot 5'8" coming through.
I just think that
maybe Brisbane might have done some more. But
I just think Brisbane.
I said they had a really good 5'8" coming through the ranks, and it wasn't as the Brisbane may have done more.
I think we got shafted.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, we were shafted.
They look at the Brisbane as a club, and I'm saying obviously the NRL's not like Brisbane as a club have said we need this guy to be a part of our squad for us to be successful this year. So them as a club aren't going to do anything, and I think
the NRL are just
it's in the NRL.
What I don't get is the NRL care more about a freaking shoulder charge than they do someone taking drugs without a license, hitting a car and breaking a young girl's head. Yeah. They care more about a shoulder charge and what a shoulder charge can do. They're kidding themselves. We've talked at nauseam about it, but that's my tidbit.
Right. Cool. Tidbits done. Excellent. Well, there we go. We got right in there. Just a reminder too, if you got the kids in the car, I'm a bit late now. You might want to turn it down whenever Shane comes on today.
I won't anymore. I promise. That was my. I was teeing off at it. It just makes me so frustrated because we're trying to teach people everything. That was tradie Shano, as my wife would say. That was back at the time when I was house painting. But anyway.
All right. Well, look, it's an institution, Shano's Tidbits. The other one is Griffo's Grab. So I think it's time to see what Griffo's got for Griffo's Grab this week. Griffo's Grab! What do you got, mate?
All right. Well, it's some time since we've had a grab, obviously.
Speak for yourself.
Off the field.
How long has this been going on? It's 5 minutes.
Oh, jeez. I'll see you in a year.
Sorry, kids.
Anyway, sorry.
If I do a footy one just quickly, go back to the Pacific Championship.
Yes.
Tom Dearden was brilliant in that game. He's really stamped himself as one of the elite halves of the NRL now. And he was most responsible for Australia's victory. But I want to go to something that I heard about, I think it was only last week, and it is an off-the-field thing that I think we've talked a lot about some negative off-field stuff. Roosters chairman Nick Politis came out and said, anyone who tests positive for an illegal drug in his club will be sacked. Now,
I'm saving that clap for when he. That's a good move.
Yeah. So I've heard some info about this that there would be things that would prevent that if it was an in-house drug testing, because there's deals with the RLPA and
Yes.
the NRL, so he can't actually do it. However, he can do it if, for example, you had your Ezra Man type thing where they were tested, nothing to do with testing that occurs through the club and through the NRL. But if something like, they did an Ezra Man, tested positive, to a roadside drug test.
So like Josh Adokar.
Like Josh Adokar. And he got shafted.
He got absolutely, yes.
And so.
And when you think about the Bulldogs, they were, they need him.
Yes and no.
But
yeah.
He was part of the plan.
He was
part of the plan, but he was also on big cash, and I think
that helps.
Maybe it was slight.
It does help. It does help.
Yeah.
Yes.
But Politis has come out and said it. I support it. So that grabbed my eye. There was another Roosters related thing that grabbed my ear and sort of ripped it off a few weeks ago. And that was something that some of the Roosters, or now ex-Roosters players, had put together, which was a song that I heard played. And I think it's called "Who Rocks the Party." Now,
Who rocks the
who rocks the
party?
party? I think it involved Joseph Suali'i, Joey Manu, Sitili Tupanua, and I think it was Siwa Wong. Now, I've got to say, it was the biggest. Well, I won't swear, but I didn't like the song. Who Rocks the Party? It should be called Who Wrecks the Party. But anyway, so one positive out
Stick to footy.
there's one negative.
But just back to the. I actually did not hear that story, so I actually can't wait to hear this thing.
It's really.
And then am I going to
It's
regret that I
You
did?
can't stand that sort of music.
Okay, it's a rap song, from what I
I
understand. Is that
believe
correct?
it's
Okay.
a crap song. I don't know that, but
Brother Giles has just entered the building, Jazz?
it's He's the mascot. The mascot of champions.
Easy cause. The one thing I want to go back to, just with this Politis thing, and just a take on it, maybe a stand that the Roosters are going to take as well. But I'm looking at the bigger picture here. I'm also assuming that if they have zero tolerance, say for example we get a couple of years down the track, and we've got, say for argument's sake, we've got half a dozen clubs to say we've got zero tolerance. First time you're done. Those 6 clubs, I'd imagine, are also then making a stand to say if you get sacked from another club, we won't sign you.
Oh, absolutely.
Because then all of a sudden you're going, do you see where I'm going with this?
That's where I used to always feel sorry for Canberra. Canberra would sack the player and go,
Yeah.
that's unacceptable.
Dugan.
Then they'd go
Yeah.
onto another club and all,
Yeah.
with playing finals and whatnot. And you think if all those players were kept at Canberra and Canberra just did at Brisbane, well then they would have had.
Yeah.
And if the players are half these players, yes, you might lose a bit of money with a different contract, but most of those players find somewhere else. So it'd be interesting to see where they go. They see with other players. I think, like you said, I think the Players Association. I think there might be a bit of a hurdle there, because take the NRL, and from our previous conversation, not to loop back around, or take the NRL to say, okay, yes, we support this. Let's try and push this and promote it through the game. I don't feel like that's where they're at.
Contractually, they can't.
They won't. And the other thing on top of that too is the NRL. I mean, we go back. More than a few years ago, when they brought in with the 3 strikes you're out. But it was like they're going, yes, okay, we're doing something. Look at this, we've got this system in place that's going to get rid of the issues. But anyway, look, I think these players in the role they're in, there'll be people. There's 3 sitting at this table, and there'll be people listening at home who are in jobs where if they were to do something similar to this, then they're
getting, and the minimum wage now for an NRL player, because of the Players Association, is very good.
Yeah. So, it'd be interesting to see where that goes.
It'll be interesting to see if it happens to, like I won't name any players, but if it's a key player in the team, are they going to run with it? And I think Politis,
I think he would. I actually think he would. Yeah. They're not. They're not idiots over there. They as an organisation.
And this is their problem they've got with
they're one of the more professional
with Brandon Smith at the moment.
well, that's why they want him out.
They're just trying to find some way to get rid of this guy.
Yeah. Well, they will.
He'll find a contract though.
Yeah.
True.
A few Sydney.
I don't know.
A few rumours around Sydney teams that might make space for him, but
I don't know whether he'll find it.
Currently,
Para's the front runner, South Merchant.
I think he needs a Bellamy-esque coach to tame him.
Yeah,
because he was a clown at Brisbane. He was a clown at Melbourne.
That's he is who he is. As long as he's not breaking rules.
No,
he's broken some at times, but most of it he's just a knockabout bloke who likes to have fun.
I just think his individual play it hasn't been anywhere near what it was at Brisbane. Melbourne, sorry.
Well, yeah. I mean, he's got the injury at the moment. Unfortunately, he was starting to find some form, but I think he's most suited to being a guy coming off the bench rather than a starting number 9.
Yeah.
With the role that he played for the Storm, behind Cameron Smith.
Very good. Very good.
Harry Grant, obviously, there's some pretty good hookers in Melbourne.
Isn't he good?
Probably what we'll do now, I think the best thing to go forward, everyone listening, it's been a while, they want to hear about their club, they want to hear what our thoughts are on their clubs going forward. I know, Shane, I'm just looking over my shoulder here at your notes and I'm thinking, geez, mate, you've been busy in the off season. But
no F words in here, guys, by the way.
No, just
fun.
By the book.
Fun.
So basically what we're going to do is I think we'll go through each club. Yep. Obviously, I might give a bit of an insight as to how the player roster may have changed. We'll have a bit of a chat about how we think their squad's going to form. And then, Shane, you've got this concept that you want to explain where we look at 3 key players from each club.
What I want to do is basically say, okay, who's the 3-2-1? Who's got to be the 3rd, 2nd, and top place Daily M Points Award recipient for them to have success in 2025? The other thing I'm going to look at is where on the ladder they sit and if they've progressed or regressed. So it's basically looking at each club, who's got to be the 3-2-1 in regards to where they sit in the Daily M Points. So who's the top Daily M Points recipient for each club?
Yep.
Who's the 2nd? Who's the 3rd? Where they might sit in the table, and have they done better? Do I think they're a mover? Have they done better or worse than in 2024? So I'll start with Brisbane, right?
Yep.
I've got Brisbane in my top 4. They're a big mover. They finished 12th in 2024. I've got them finishing in the top 4. In my ladder, I've got them finishing 3rd. Madge as their coach is very big. I've got my 3-2-1. My 3rd place person for them in the Daily M Points would need to be Adam Reynolds.
He needs to just play.
Well, he's the captain. Madge has made him the captain this year. I think,
and don't forget, I think he's had surgery in the offseason.
He has. So he's got to be 3rd. 2nd place, I've got Patrick Carrigan, and no guesses who I think their top Daily M Points recipient needs to be in Reece Walsh.
Mm-hmm.
What do you guys think?
Yeah, well, just looking at Brisbane, I think one player you didn't mention. Then I was just going to quickly remind everyone: Ben Hunt's coming into the squad. Now he's one I don't think
he's not going to play enough games. I don't. He will play all.
Tell you what, he'll play.
Like Ezra Mam's going to come in.
I think he'll move to hooker when Ezra Mam comes back. So I think he's going to play the first 9 games, partnering Adam Reynolds if Adam Reynolds is fit and hopefully back in time with that neck injury. They're moving into
if Ben Hunt
number 9.
My thing was
he's their number 9.
I looked at Ben Hunt and I said, Ben Hunt's your best player. You're not finishing top 4. That was my thoughts.
I think he needs to. I think the best way for me to describe this is I think Ben Hunt needs to be at his best for Brisbane to be a force in this competition. We know that if he and Reynolds provide that stability through the spine, Reece Walsh is going to be able to chime in. You don't want Reece Walsh having pressure on him to do the meat and potato stuff. You want all that taken care of, and then he chimes in for the flash stuff.
Yep.
Carrigan, is going to work through the middle, and their forward pack. They do have a good forward pack to lay that platform. I think he's going to be a key player in this squad, and I think that I actually think if Ben Hunt is fit, I actually think he plays a lot of minutes. He's their number 9 for me if everyone's fit and not suspended. Then I think
does Ben Hunt need to be higher in the Dalian points than Adam Reynolds, Patrick Carrigan, or Reece Walsh?
I think Patrick Carrigan's going to be high anyway because he's going to be one of the most important players. I think Adam Reynolds and Ben Hunt need to be playing well every game. I think Ben Hunt, has to be there. Him and Adam Reynolds, because if those two aren't there, and my worry is with their age, if they're high up in that possible count, that means they're playing games. My biggest concern for Adam Reynolds especially, and to a lesser extent Ben Hunt, is them not playing all the games.
And Billy Walters. So you're saying Billy Walters out?
How do you mean? Like, not in the squad?
Hmm.
No, Ben Hunt's their Ben Hunt's their 9. Ben Hunt's their 9.
I know that the Brisbane and Adam Reynolds were very sold on him being the future of the club, the future hooker of the club. I'm just saying that, does he not feature in the? I agree with you. I'm just playing devil's advocate.
I reckon Marty Tapau's got a hard enough. He's going to struggle to make this team. He's someone he's going to be the most famous reserve grade player in the Queensland Cup for them.
Yeah, no, he's not in that top 17. Firstly, I don't have a lot of faith in the Dalian Awards, but
No, you know what I mean.
we've seen
Yeah.
Penrith win 4 premierships in a row. They never get anywhere close.
Well, I've got something for Penrith when we get to the Panthers.
Okay.
I've got for Penrith.
But look, as far as Reynolds go, I think the Broncos have to be in a position to win without him because he doesn't play all that often. He's had an operation. I don't know that he's back for round 1.
Club saying he is, but
It was a neck injury.
the integrity of the Brisbane Broncos press releases have been questioned.
I think we'll see. I think we'll see Hunt playing in the halves, certainly while Mam's out. But
Could be Walters and Hunt
no,
in the halves.
they've got about 4 hookers, not including.
They do.
They've
They've got
Cakes.
Yep.
They've got
Cakes.
Walters, they've got Smoothie, and they've got the young guy who's had a lot of raps, whose name Blake Moser. So even without Ben Hunt, they got 4 dummy halves there. So I'm sure that by the end of the season, or
Hunt won't play 80 minutes, so one of those guys is on the bench if they do that.
Moser, he's sort of seen as the guy who's going to come in and play round 1. Like, everyone's tipping Moser to play round 1.
Yeah, because
He's off the bench.
yeah, I think Moser. I think in their 17, they got more chance of Moser being in their 17. Walters.
See, it's funny.
Yeah.
Like Adam Reynolds and everyone who's the captain, and everyone else sort of through their support behind Billy Walters. And what we're finding is Billy Walters is now that Daddy's not part of the organisation. I've got to be honest. I think Blake Moser is actually I think he's a very good player. And looking at what Maguire has done in the past with certain clubs and certain people, I think it's Billy Walters is no sure thing for me. I think Blake Moser is it.
Which is interesting too, because Billy Walters is actually he's re-signed through to the end of 2026. Big year for the other boys like Corey Pakes, Moser, Smoothie, all off contract at the end of the year. So I think we might get a bit of an insight this year as to whether one of those guys is going to get picked up again. And obviously, we know with Ben Hunt,
Can I
with
also
his age. I think he's there next year again, isn't he?
Hunts 2 years.
2 years, yeah.
Yeah. Can I also add something the Courier Mail put out there a little while ago was they were reporting that Maguire was considering Pat Carrigan is a chance to go to the front row with Kobe Hetherington to start at lock.
Yeah, it makes sense. Just on those three guys, I would have Payne Haas in their top three most important players, and without him,
Oh, yeah.
they're not going to. I do believe they'll make the top four. There's too much talent there. They've got a proper coach now. I thought, when Maguire said he was leaving the Blues, I was disappointed about
I was gutted.
But I was almost as disappointed when I heard that he was signing with the Broncos. That actually makes them.
You know, I think we said in our podcast, he's the one guy I wish never left South.
Well, you're a South man. I think he
Who took over from him, Shane?
Don't start with it. The 88-year-old's a bad shot.
That didn't make the tidbits.
I think him and South, they've done their time, and he wanted.
I think
they got tired.
You know,
Toothpaste and orange juice.
what Maguire was at South Sydney is that he missed the 8 one year, and then the following year missed the 8. He missed the 8 the following year on the back of South Sydney, actually flashing home. And what you forget is the year when they flashed home, they were the best club in the NRL at that time. They beat nearly everybody in the top 8. Had they made the top 8 in ifs and buts, I just think, look, he was never going to get a chance. I think that Maguire's going to do some pretty good things. Are we done with Brisbane?
Sure. Let's hit up the Canberra Raiders now. Just quickly, Shane. I was going to let you know some of their player movements. It's one of those weird years with player movements. It's like there's been some big names here and there, but a lot of clubs, I think, looking more to their losses, and I think the Canberra Raiders, for our casual fans, are going to probably look at next year and say, okay, there's no Kotrick, no Drapana. There are probably some bigger names.
He was playing reserve grade nearly all year, so
yeah,
he was already.
So I think he end up going overseas anyway, but
Probably on a holiday.
yeah, that's
It
right.
was the way he was playing.
But what I'm saying is, I think a lot of the time with the Raiders, they're looking at who's coming through, and they've re-signed, some of the key players, Weeks, Fogarty, so on and so forth. They always seem to be that team where they're not necessarily in the news all the time with the big names. So I'd be interested to see which 3 names you picked out from the Canberra Raiders this year that really have to feature in their daily endpoints for them to be successful, and also too what you see as success for the Raiders.
Okay,
Like is
Raiders. I said them
avoiding a spoon. Is that success?
Inside the 8. I've got them personally. I've got them at 17th. I'm sorry, not 17th. I've got them at 13th. For me, the 3 players, they're outside the 8. They're going to drop. They're going to drop from 9 to 13. And I've got them outside the 8 regardless. For me, the 3 players that really need to step up or need to feature for them, I've got Tom Starling in at number 3, Joseph Tarpany in number 2, and Jamal Fogarty in number 1. They're the 3 players for mine that really need to, I suppose, they need to be like if they're looking at any type of success. Those 3 would need to feature fairly prominently in the Daily M awards system for them to do well. But I just can't see them doing well. That's my problem. I just can't see them doing well this year. I think Ricky. I'm going to actually put it out there. I actually think Ricky will be in a bit of trouble. I think come round 12, 13 of this year, I think he's going to be. I think they're going to be looking at Ricky Stewart and going, "Geez, but what's for the future?" Look,
Because they only just missed the 8.
another
For and against, wasn't it, this year, last year?
players,
right. Yeah.
2 other players, I think maybe that might. 2 other players that I think need to feature is, of course, Hudson Young and Corey Horsburgh. They're 2 others. but I just can't see.
So the main thing is that
number 9. Like I just see them.
they're regressing.
They
Is that-
and they don't have the firepower, and I've got a gut feeling these players some of these players I mentioned, Jamal Fogarty's just got to lead this side around in order for them to win. But I think by the end of the year we might see some players looking to look elsewhere. People of the likes of Hudson Young, Hudson Young, Sebastian Christ is getting on. Teo Weeks, again for fullback. He's from the middle to an edge. Corey Horsburgh, shooting the middle of the edge. And Teo Weeks, chance to push for Rapina's number 1 spot.
Yeah, he'll be fullback, I think.
3-2-1. Starling, Tarpany, and Fogarty.
So it sounds as though we're all, I mean, just from what you're saying, I agree with you, Shane. It'll be interesting to see what you think, Griffo. A bit of a slide probably on the cards here for Canberra. As I said, they finished 9th. It was only 4 and against. It kept them out of the 8. Do you see them as a top 8 chance, or are you as Shane where you're thinking that avoiding the spoon's a good year?
Well, I thought that last year, and I thought they overachieved.
They overachieved last year.
They beat some very good teams towards the end of the competition. But the thing was that you couldn't rely on them, and they actually went down in games where you would have thought they were favourites to win. So they did play a lot of the season without Fogarty. I think the Raiders in 2026 are going to be a bit of a force. They've gone out and signed a lot of very good young players.
Yeah, I agree.
Under that for New South Wales.
There's a small part of me that says they're going to tank this year to play next year, sort of.
Well, we'll see. I mean, they've got the Colonel, who played 19s a couple of years ago from the Eels.
Ethan Sanders.
Yeah, the Colonel. Yeah. I think the two Ethans, we'll see them as probably 6 and 7 down the track. I still think Ethan Strange is a better centre than what he is at 5'8", but he's a very good player. They've got the makings of a good side in a few years' time. I think they might struggle. I don't think they make the 8, but again, they did better than I thought they'd do last year. I can't see them making the 8 though.
Yeah, sort of in that.
No, they'll challenge it, but
that sort of 10th through to 15th kind of range. I think a lot of people might see them in and be not surprised to see them there. Next team we'll have a chat about the Canterbury Bulldogs. This is a team that we've talked a lot about the last few years. They've actually got a few new players that I'll remind people of. Montoya's over there, Tuala from the Knights, Tupanua obviously there, Tom Amone is over there as well. We alluded to before, obviously Josh Adokar, the situation there. There are some players leaving there, but I think they've been every year we talk about in this time of year. They're really focusing on the gains. I think that when they're signing players.
So Dogs, I've got the Dogs at the bottom of the 8. I've actually got them in at 5th place from 6th last season. The 3 people for me that really need to feature in the WM. Number 3, I've got Stephen Crichton.
Yes.
Number 2, I've got Phil Army Kickout.
Yep.
Number 1, I've got Matt Burton. That's just. I think that's not taking anything.
2021 Daily M's for Penrith.
Connor Tracy, of course, kind of injury. Like I think Connor Tracy, of course. There's Connor Tracy needs to play well, of course. Can I just say that if by the end of the year, Josh Curran pushes his way into the starting lineup, that I think we've got the Sex Bomb number 7, Matt Burton number 6, Reid Marnie number 9. They really we've got the gutted dog off the bench as well, most likely off the bench.
Bronson Cherry with a bit more footy under his belt.
Sherry with a bit more footy under his belt.
Jacob Preston was another player in the last few years who's blind the same.
I think if Josh Curran and Jacob Preston are vying for that starting position, I think everything's healthy at the Dogs. I really think they're going to go one position better on the table than last year. I've got them finishing at 5th.
I reckon you're just about on the money there. I reckon top 8, but maybe not top 4. And yeah, some of those players, like I said, I mean, Stephen Crichton, I think, is going to be their standout player. I think if you're not watching full games and you're watching the minis or the highlights, I think Stephen Crichton's going to get a fair bit of airtime in those games, Griffo.
Yeah, he's obviously, I think he's their most important player. I actually don't think they're going to make the 8.
Mm-hmm.
I think they go backwards. I mean, look, they had a great year.
Yeah.
I think they overachieved.
Yep.
Saw them go out in straight sets in the final.
Fair call.
And I thought that's about where they were. In terms of what they brought in, Tupanu, I rate him as a back rower / bench player, but I think he's definitely a good player. Montoya, I don't think they gain a whole lot there from what they had. He's a good winger, but
They gain cash.
He's not. Yeah, do they pay as much as that?
Butler is just he's a squad signing. He's not going to be in their top 7 if everyone's fit. And Amon, we saw him play some good games with South, and I think the Tigers, was it Tom Amon?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
coming back from England.
yeah, that's right.
He's decent. They would have loved it if Newcastle and Leo Thompson had said, "Well, why not go now? You're leaving." That would have been handy, but that's a big signing for them going from 2026 onwards. But I still think they're a chance of the 8. I'm not writing them off completely. I just think there are probably 8 better teams than this team.
When I say the biggest fear I have for the Dogs is that they get a bit scared. They change Kiraz's side to Crichton, and they run, and everything goes sort of Sexton, Burton, Crichton, Kiraz. No, Tracy Kiraz. Like they're just going to run. They become one-dimensional. I don't think that's going to happen. But it's got the. They were a bit that way last year with that Okar. They did at times they became one-dimensional. But I actually think I actually think that they're going to. My gut.
I know this is what the listeners probably care about. Do you want me to tell you one thing? I reckon their reserve grade team will probably go all right. When you look at that, and I suppose people are saying, well, doesn't that attribute to their depth? But what I'm saying is there's a lot of experience. I'm thinking of the players in this squad. I'm looking at their 30, and I'm thinking when I look at, players like Jamin Salmon, Saluka Fafita, Taff, there's quite a few players there that have played a bit of first grade there. So, just basically saying there that they may, if they have some injuries, it might be a squad. If they get in the 8, it might be a whole squad effort rather than just a 17 every week.
I think when I was doing this, it wasn't that I think this is what's going to happen. This is what has to happen for the side to do well. I was actually going to put Toby Sexton in there because Toby Sexton has to fire for this club to do well.
Yeah.
Because, Matt Burton...
It's almost like the other 3 will.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And that sort of comes up in later teams as well.
Yep. All right. So, moving on from the Bulldogs, we are moving alphabetically, if you guys are wondering. So those who are fans of the Tigers can skip ahead. You know that you're going to be towards the end. But we'll move on to the Sharks now.
Yep.
Probably the most notable signing for them, Adam Fanua-Blake, is probably the main one that I think people are going to be talking about as an addition to this team. Thoughts on the Sharks, because they're one of those teams too that they've been there or thereabouts, and it's almost as though every year we talk about and say, well, draws out, easy draw, they make the top 4, they get
Well,
They're making up the
Again.
numbers.
again, if you looked at their draw,
Not in great detail.
Still soft.
wait till I tell you where I think they're going to finish. Okay, the Cronulla Sutherland Sharks. I've got them finishing top 4. They're going to finish 4th in my books. The 3 for me is third highest will be Nico Hines. Second highest, Will Kennedy. He's in a contract year this year, Will Kennedy. And so if he wants to keep his contract or have a hope of going anywhere, he needs a big year. Number 1, you're not going to believe it, Braden Trindle. I think Braden Trindle needs to have a cracking year for this team. He'll be the number 7 by the end of the year. I'm telling you now. They will put him at number 7 and Hines at number 6. I think at the end of I think at the end of I know that there's been some chopping changing, but yeah, when I just think that this is the team that's going to flow the best. For me, I think if Braden Trindle is the best player, if he's the best high scorer for the Sharks, you can say they're either going to be 12th or they're going to be in the top 4.
Yeah.
And everyone's done their job. Yeah, that's where I've got it. That's not taking anything away. I think Blake Brayley and Cameron McInnes, they always turn up. But yeah, again, looking at what they've got, their defense is good. Like, you know, we can go tongue in cheek and talk about their finals performance and how they go out backdoor. Well, they won one.
They won.
They won one.
But you know, I just think how they go to water. Again, when you look at their draw and you look at everything, I think they're going to finish 4th. And I think Nico Hines 3, Will Kennedy off contract needs a big year. If he doesn't have a big year, they're not going to finish in the top 4. And if Braden Trindle can't support what, because I don't think Nico Hines was in a rich vein of form at times. If he can't pick up the slack, well, I'm telling you now, the Sharks may not finish in the 8.
It's almost as though they're going better when the pressure's not on Hines. Yeah, when it's not all coming down to Hines. You can pull it out every now and then. But, you know, there's some big names in this squad, isn't there, really? When you look, like you said, Kennedy's been good form over the past few years. I mean, even throughout those outside backs as well. You know, we've always talked about Jesse Ramian on this podcast. We know what Cameron McInnes can do.
Hero was another one who I think had a breakout season last year.
He did. Yep. Carl, thoughts?
I think it's going to be really similar to the Sharks this year. They're a good side, yet to establish themselves as a great side. Obviously, to try and make that happen, they had the big signing of Aboriginal Blake. A lot is expected. He's a quality player. I'm just looking at the fact that he signed for 4 years. I don't know if there's a market on will he see out his contract or will he indeed seek another compassionate leave? He is a world record holder in the NRL for movements between clubs for compassionate reasons. I don't know how many of those you get, but he had to get out of Sydney for family reasons.
Back in Sydney.
Get out of Auckland to go back to Sydney. Well, I don't understand how that works, but the bottom line, he's a really good football player. Maybe he is the difference that elevates this team from a good side who you can rely on to make the 8 and then not do much when they get there. Is he going to be the difference to enable them to beat clubs like Penrith, like Melbourne, like the Brisbane Broncos in finals football? We shall see. But yeah, I think they make the top 4 because they will win most of their games because they've got a good squad.
Yeah, good squad, and as we say often, handy draw. Now, we'll go Dolphins next.
Dolphins, yeah.
Let's go Dolphins. The Dolphins, I didn't know whether you were alphabetical order, Shane, whether you were making sure that it was under R for Red.
Oh, no, I was going to, but I thought,
The Dolphins, they're one of these funny squads, aren't they, in the NRL? There's a lot of, obviously, talk about the Dolphins. We're getting into that period, though, now where they're not really the new kids on the block anymore.
No.
They've been around for a few years.
No.
A bit of personnel changes over time there. But they've still got some big names, and I'd be interested to see here because there are, obviously your Hammers and so on and so forth. But what are your thoughts on how they'll shape up this year,
the
Shane?
Dolphins. So the Dolphins, for me, I got them at the bottom 4 of the ladder. I've actually got them at 14.
Yep.
Got them finishing in the final 4. Can I just say that I've actually tried to do some research, and I actually can't find a captain listed for this side. Unless there's one, I
don't know. Who'd you give it to?
I don't know whether they have.
Let's give one. Who are we going to give it to? Rahama? Yeah.
Jeremy Marshall King, maybe Kafusi.
I'd give it a little bit just for fun.
But
Mark Nichols.
My 3-2-1.
Punching, baby.
My 3-2-1. So I have in number the third highest for them to get any level of success this year. They need the third highest Daily M player to be Cody Nikorima. He has to do something. Number 2, Jeremy Marshall King, their hooker, who sort of had decent games last year, and no secret who number 1 is. It's the Hammer. Hammer so Tabuai Fido. He needs to be, if he's the best player, he will be the best player. Shout out to people like Rookie of the Year, Jack Bostock.
I like him.
I think he's a great.
He'll be on the highlight reel, I think, a bit.
Great player.
Some power in that forward pack.
There is some power in the forward pack. Junior Tupou from the Tigers is someone who might
be a interchange player.
Yeah. Daniel Saifidi is there. I just think, I'm not saying this because of the club he's gone to, but a lot is said for the benefits of Wayne Bennett.
Yeah, coach.
And where Wayne Bennett got them last year, was 10th, and I think they're going to go down from there. So that's me for the Dolphins.
Because Max Feeney and Saifidi, and like you said, Junior Tupou, they're probably the main
Katoa.
Main additions to the squad. There are a few players leaving there, but yeah, I don't know. I feel like they've just turned. I worry about the Dolphins, Griffo, because I feel like they're just going to turn into one of those teams that everyone just almost like we're going to talk about them next, but almost like the Titans, where everyone just goes, oh yeah, they'll just they'll make up somewhere between 9th and 17th, and they'll be there or thereabouts. They might snag a win here and there.
I actually, I don't think they make the 8, but I think they've got a good squad. I think they've actually got a better squad than what went round last year. If Flegler is able to recover, and I think that's the most important thing. And they missed Tom Gilbert all of last year.
Yeah,
he's not their best player, but he's right up there in terms of importance. I'd probably have. I don't know. You talked about captains. I think he's a guy that leads by example. He's a really good player, and they missed him. And Flegler only played a handful of games, and then he got that injury. And conflicting reports about whether he's actually ever going to play again.
Well, he's in serious doubt for round 1.
Well, I don't think he's round 1 material. I don't know if he's round performance.
That shoulder sounded like.
Well, it's a nerve thing. It's similar to the poor young Tiger guy, Wire, who sits in the coach's box. Was a really good young player, and he got that injury. And what I've heard is Flegler's is something similar. Technology's improved since that time, but Flegler to me is one of the elite props in the game. And he was their big signing last year. If he is able to get back on the field and play at the same level, that gives them a chance of making the 8. They've got some really good backline players with the likes of the Hammer and Herbie, Bostock you mentioned, Avarillo. They've got a very good half in Katoa. And the guy that hasn't been mentioned yet, the signing from the Cowboys, I don't know how you, Cooley, Finney,
Yeah.
I'm not good with them. Apologies, by the way. I don't mean.
Finney laughing.
Yeah, he's a bloody good player.
He'll be in second up.
He's a big one for the Cowboys, and especially with the balloon again being deflated. But he's a big gain for.
He won't be on the bench. Like, he might start on the bench round 1, but he won't be on the bench.
You'd take Kapusi and Gilbert with their back row.
Gilbert maybe either lock or front row. I think.
So, yeah.
But if they get their best team on the field and stay fit, they're a very, very good side.
Does Trey Fuller crack it back in this side?
Maybe 14, but I don't think. The option is you got that.
I can't find a spot for it.
No.
Not with the Hammer.
The Hammer, his best position for this team is fullback.
100%.
You got Avarillo and Herbie in the centers.
Sarko on the wings.
You got Jermaine Sarko on the wing with Jack Bostock.
Farnworth, he's another guy
Farnworth, yeah.
Farnworth, we were talking.
He had a great season.
Yeah.
He's a great player.
I do rate him.
I don't know. Yeah, maybe I've been a bit harsh on these guys. Maybe they fly a little bit under the radar because they're I don't know. But, when you go through and you look at the squad, you go, yeah, they actually got some really good players.
It'll take a year for them to click.
I just don't, like you said, it's going to take a bit of work too, not only from the players, but as you said, the coaching staff have a big job on their hands. Another club who every year it seems has a big job on their hands, the Gold Coast Titans. I think we're probably talking. I can't recall another signing apart from the RCG signing. Another
no, they had a couple. They signed a guy from Sevens Rugby, Carter Gordon.
Yeah.
There's a few other guys on development.
Bit of depth stuff there, but players of note that the casual fans, I think,
Regan Campbell-Gillard.
Gillard, as I said, yeah. But so he's going to be the main one probably coming in, and the main difference. If you're looking at the 1 to 17, he's probably a signing that's going in. Like I said, this is another team that we feel as though. I feel as though the conversation, guys, is going to be, the bottom half of the ladder.
I've got the Titans outside the 8. I've got them finishing in 10th. So for me,
okay, that's an improvement.
They're up. I think that's an improvement.
That's to the 8, really.
The key thing to the improvement is big. The key thing for me in the improvements is Big Tina. So my 3-2-1 for them to be 3. The third guy is Big Tino. Big Tino is my number. He'll be the third one. The number 2, the second highest, will need to be AJ Brimson. I think they were rudderless shit in the halves at times last year, and I think that if AJ Brimson can have a great year, well, then that helps. And for number 1, the top rated Titan in the daily and points for them to succeed this year, I've got Count O'Kinney. He was the 2024 Titans Player of the Year last year. I think he's going to be. Now they got a bye round one, funnily enough, but he'll be their fullback. I think he's going to play
already.
He's going to play. You're probably saying David Fafita. David Fafita just needs to do what David Fafita does. Sam Verrills just needs to do what Sam Verrill does. Regan Campbell-Gillard needs to do what Campbell-Gillard does. Both Fermor needs to do that. But Big Tino for me, number 3, AJ Brimson number 2, and King number 1. I think, I've got them improving. I think if Big Tino's on the field all year, they're going to do better.
Yeah, they are one of those squads again. Like I said, I'm not factoring them into the top 8. This is if they make the 8, I'll say this is a massive overachievement. But like I said, when you break it down, you look at the players. There's a lot of players here that we like and that we've talked about for a long time. A lot of players here that, when in form, are Carpool Rugby League favourites.
When looking at the start of the year, one thing to mention is Regan Campbell-Gillard sustained that shoulder injury at training, so he is racing the clock for round 2.
Okay. Yeah. And I'd imagine too. He'd be featuring, especially with that injury night, featuring off the bench this year for them, and part of that. Obviously, it's a board rotation.
I look at their bench and I think he's actually a start. I think he's one of the starting bookends with Federer Cup.
Oh, yeah, he is.
Yeah.
And what would you have Tino at?
13. Yep. 13. Yeah, Tino at 13.
Yep. But and look, realistically, I know people are listening to us going, "Hey, you've probably done it about 3 times, guys." These days, when we're talking about 8, 10, 13, a lot of clubs play like it's almost the same position. It's your middle forwards.
Yeah.
What do you reckon?
Look, I see them squad-wise, it's a top 8 squad. The forward pack is outstanding. They've got skill and speed in the back line. If they play to their ability, they should make the 8. But it's the Gold Coast Tigers, and that's one of the problems. A special mention to one of my favorite players, who didn't get a mention earlier, is one of these guys that have got fired, and that is, of course, Jacob Winky. Always good for a lick. He's actually a good player. Besides the fact he's got a great name.
Love it.
He's sort of a fringe player of the team, but I'd have him off the bench because he can make a break. He's got skill. I think he represents PNG in the Pacific Championship, so he's a good player. Fafita, the guy with probably the most potential to do damage in the NRL. Sometimes he does, and sometimes he doesn't. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they make the 8, but I'm not expecting it.
Just one more question there, just in regards to a player that's been there a long time and there's always talk about his role. That's Jaden Campbell. Do we see Campbell's role as being an interchange player coming on? I read an article a while back where they were talking about Campbell possibly even playing in the halves. I don't know if I'll see it happen. That the article I read was suggesting that there was a possibility of Brimson and Campbell playing in the halves and Foran playing more of a bench role. Is the safe bet if we were to look at it, would it be Brimson, Foran halves and Campbell off the bench?
I actually think it's going to be Brimson and Campbell started and Kieran Foran off the bench.
Yeah, okay.
35 this year, I think.
Yeah, well. So that might be that transition.
Yep.
Do we mention Sam Verrills and all that?
Oh, yeah. So
he should be there starting. No, he should be
starting.
Yeah, I just didn't know if we I thought we'd be remiss of us not to mention him, but Titans, as I said, they have if everything clicks with the squad they've got, they can, but I don't think we see it happening.
I know Tino being injured last year. The key player in the middle, if he gets injured, this team can go south quickly, is Sam Verrills. He
Yeah.
has to be there.
Well, we've seen it previously.
What's happening? Yeah.
That's right. He has to
We
be there
know.
the whole season.
The next team we're going to talk about, have you got Manly on your list there, Shane, I'd imagine?
Do.
They're the next ones. Takiyaho and Jazz Tavega are probably the most notable player movements coming into the squad. This is another team, and we're talking about teams that need players to be fit and be in the squad all year, and we don't have to spend a whole podcast talking about the importance of turbo and so on and so forth. But this is another one of those teams where now we've got that Luke Brooks, Cherry Evans sort of halves. There's some key players here.
Interesting you mentioned that. So I've got the Seagulls coming sort of 5 to 8. I've got them finishing 6th.
Oh, it was Laurie
6th.
Laurie Daly. 5
5
to 8.
to 8. Yep.
Maybe in the centre.
Up 1 from last year. So the 3 players, 3, 2, 1, they have to finish in order for me in the daily end points to be seen as doing anything with success this year. Number 3 is Luke Brooks. I think Luke Brooks really has to fit into this team. Olakau'atu, I've got as number 2. I think he's now the forward charger. Jake Dvojevic, Ben Dvojevic will do what they need to do. I think Olakau'atu could have a good shot at being second row of the year if he'd need to be for Manly to finish well. Number 1, it just goes without saying, Turbo. Turbo will have to be their top Dalian recipient of the year. Interesting, Seabold has said he's not playing anywhere else but fullback for the Seagulls. That's with Hopewati sort of snapping at his heels a little bit. Jacob Saab will come back at the start of the season.
Oh, yeah.
Tommy Talau.
Jason Child.
I'd say Kula and Garrick will be their centres. That's my way of thinking. Jazz Tavova off the bench. Jake Simpkin probably is their number 9. I'd say. With Jake Dvojevic 13, Ben 12.
Lachlan Croker, obviously, in that talk too for the number 9.
You being the 12th, I've got a gut feeling. He will play. He'll play some time.
He's injured too, I think. I don't think he's available to round 4, so I'd say Simpkin and
if Luke Brooks
might get that first.
If Luke Brooks doesn't fire, they are done. I've got them finishing 6th.
They're 1 to 13 just about picks itself, and like I said, the only question mark I've got on their 1 to 13 is if Hopewati, nips at the heels of one of the wingers just to push into the squad, and like you said, their forward pack, we've got some real talent there. Obviously, Volandi's favourite player.
But what's going to be interesting is does Jason Saab have the speed he had previously? Because that's what they really bank on. He's come back from the ankle injury. So I think that the big thing for their start of the season will be Jason Saab, Tommy Talau, and Hopewati. How they all fit in. But I think if Luke Brooks does not fire for this club and Daly Cherry Evans has to do everything, you don't want to find that halfway through the season you're putting Tom Dvojevic at number 6, Daly Cherry's at number 7. You've got Garrick and like because
I don't think they're going to shuffle the.
Luke Brooks has to be in that top 3 in their daily.
I thought Brooks had a really good year last year.
Yeah, I do.
There were 1 or 2 games where
I just think he needs to absolutely
play 5 or football for the first time.
Yeah,
was. But I think, like we were saying, I think Turbo's fit is number 1. I think that first 13 just about picks themselves. I'm imagining you've got them in the 8, Griffo.
Yeah, all things being equal, and they don't lose turbo. It's a good side on paper. I don't understand the signing of Takiaho. He got shafted by the Catalan Dragons for turning up, or not turning up, went to a concert or something. The Roosters didn't want him back. He left the Roosters for injury reasons. And then the Bulldogs were going to sign him, and that didn't happen. The Roosters let players go only when they believe their use-by date has expired or they're not firing. He was a key in their premiership double success going back about 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
But a strange signing for mine. They offered Matt Lodge a training trial or something similar when the Dragons did the same thing.
Yeah.
And Matt Lodge is more than that. I would have seen more value in Lodge as opposed to Tapiaho, but that's just my opinion.
Who's the looser of the two cannons? That's what it comes down to me, But
interestingly, Cheekham's gone back there.
Yeah, I think I'm not quite sure if he's technically in their top 30.
He is. Yeah,
Is he?
Just looking at that.
You got it there, yeah.
But interestingly, who's not in their top 30 is Lee Harper-One, still on the development list.
I'll tell you who he is.
Yes,
Kong.
League favourite. He's still there.
He's still there.
He's another one. There's a lot of players in here that can play hooker.
Yeah.
There's a lot of players in the squad that can play hooker. Another couple of players we haven't mentioned that I think will obviously feature on the fringes there. Like players like Corey Waddell, Nathan Brown. Over the years, we've obviously talked about their impact that they can have, especially in this team, which would probably be coming off the bench. So, Manly, good squad.
Bullimore in that category. I like Bullimore.
Bullimore's there, yeah.
Only signed for 2025.
Ethan Bullimore.
Very good player.
Yep.
Bullimore's a great player.
Yep. And like we said, probably no room for the Shoop Dog in this.
No, he's still listed though.
No.
Still listed.
So
didn't see a lot of NRL last year. He's been to a few clubs now. Anyway,
been around.
We've got a contract.
Does. Manly. I'll tell you what, I'd be a bit excited if I was a Manly fan. I think they're just about a lock for the top 8. And
before we leave, I've just noticed there's a loss there. They've lost a condom.
Oh, that's never good.
So, well, you're asking, for trouble, aren't you? In more ways than one there.
Just looking at the next club we're going to talk about, like I said, if you want to have locks for the top 8, the Melbourne Storm. I don't think. They're premiership contenders every year. I think where you put them in the top 4 each year is sort of splitting hairs. There was a few years there where, you go back and listen to our previews, and we suggested that they may drop to the bottom half of the top 8.
Yeah.
They always just cream just rises to the top. I'd imagine you've got some.
I've got them. Okay.
Got them pretty high, and you've got some big names to talk about here.
I've got them coming first. They're the minor premiers for me, as they were last year. They're the only team I think that are going to come close to rival Penrith. For me, they will finish first at the end of the season. Whether they're premiers or not remains to be seen. But the 3-2-1 it picks itself. For me, it's got to be Cameron Munster, number 3. I think Jerome Hughes is brilliant. Don't get me wrong. I think Jerome Hughes is probably going to be right up there in the Dalian, but I think Munster really needs to lead here. Pat, number 2, and Harry Green, their captain, number 1.
Yeah. If you haven't heard of those blokes, you're listening to the wrong podcast.
3-2-1. It means that Jerome Hughes is just doing his thing. It means everyone is doing their thing. And what it also means is that Pappenhausen has returned to former fullback, keeping Fa'alongo out. It means that Munster has got back into form, and that Harry Grant is doing Harry Grant-esque stuff.
Well, that's something I actually want to ask you guys because obviously I've had the year out. I've missed a lot of key talk. The Ryan Pappenhausen return. Thoughts on that? Obviously, remarkable player, remarkable injury. But are we just looking at Ryan Pappenhausen as the player he was? Are there still some question marks over that? What do you think, Griffo, when you see Pappenhausen's name there? How do you frame his impact in your mind?
Well, he's a great player. Having the serious injuries that he's had hasn't helped. And I don't think he's as good as he was. Still very, very good, don't get me wrong, but I do think he may have lost a little of what he had. I thought in the grand final, we didn't really see anything from him. The last time those two teams played a grand final previously, he won the Clive and he was instrumental in their victory with that scintillating try just after half time, which really effectively killed any Penrith chance that night. But interesting that they did sign him for, I think, another year. They've got, as you mentioned, Fa'alongo, who is an amazing talent. Can't really have the two guys in the same starting 13. This team, to me, they are, I believe, favourites to win the title, and they should be. They weren't far off on the scoreboard in the grand final last year, even though they were definitely outplayed. But they did have one very large human being not able to play in Big Nelson. That made a lot of difference because the middle forwards for the side were ineffective. They also bring in another large human being from the West Tigers in the form of Stefano Utoy Ekamanu. He was the biggest talk on people's lips for around about 5 to 6 weeks there. Like, what's Stefano going to do? Is he going to stay? Is he going to go? If he goes, where does he go? Well, he's going into a system where
He's going to be enormous.
you expect so, because he's a phenomenal talent. We haven't seen the best of him. Definitely brings out the best in most players, and that lack of any sort of impact from the middle forwards in the grand final, we won't see that again. So they should be favourites. There are high quality players who won't make 17 when they're all fit and well. And Zet, who re-signed a long-term deal with a clause in his contract that if Hugh stays, then he can go. But he got offered, a lot to go to the Knights and be their proper halfback without the juggling act that goes on up there. And that's where he's a junior up there, and decided now he believes he's best interest is served in Melbourne. That guy can't make the 17. And there are a few others, likewise. So this team, I've got them top 2 in the regular season. I do expect they'll be minor players, and I do expect they'll win the comp. What more can I say than that? They're quality.
And I think just something to add to that, where you're talking about the middle forwards, it's worth noting that I think Big Nelson, he's still got a few games out.
All right.
So
Round two, but
yeah, so it looks like Stefano will get a crack.
Get a crack at his
probably
junior club, the Parramatta Eels, in round one.
Yeah, probably get a go in the starting lineup there with Josh King up front. But
no, also that this club has a genuine utility in Tyrone Wishart.
yeah,
True.
yep, yeah. If there's that, I mean, all the listeners here, they'll say if he was 14 for their club, they'd love it. Just in regards to other recruitment, wasn't someone that I was too familiar with. Listeners, maybe Moses Leo. I think he's a Kiwi from Rugby Sevens. He's signed on with them.
Big winner.
Yeah, is it? Yeah, okay. So, from the reports I'm reading here, that they reckon he's doing really well in pre-season, and they're even considering him as a possibility even in the centres, pushing for a spot. But yeah, to your point, players we've seen do well for them in the past, coming and filling in, like blokes like Grant Anderson. I mean, Bronson Garley's still there. Like you said, Farlongo, Pezzett. They're a machine. They're just a production line. They just produce good players and
one in there, 2, 3, and 4, 2, 3, 4, 5 that may get replaced as Jack Howard, and you'd say that Farlongo has the job. Warbrick, Howard, Meany, and
just get them in the squad.
Phenomenal 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see. But I think most people, if you're not considering them as possible premiership favourites, then I don't know what else you need. Moving on to our next club, we'll have a talk about Newcastle Knights.
Warriors?
Oh, you got Warriors next. Sorry, Shane. Sorry, the Warriors.
As in New Zealand.
New Zealand as the sorry. We'll go Warriors. Fisher Harris. That's probably a name that's going to come up a fair bit in our conversation today. Other gains, people know Tanner Boyd, Aaron Clark, also coming over to the club. We mentioned earlier, obviously, Fanua Blake leaving. Worth reminding people that there are also some players that have left retired. Sean Johnson, Tohu Harris, the notable ones. The Tohu Harris one was news that broke only recently in regards to his situation. We talked about Montoya and Just Vega leaving the club earlier when we talked about Canterbury and Manly. Their thoughts, Shana? Who are your three players? Where are they finishing?
Warriors. I've got Warriors in the bottom end of the table. In actual fact, I've got them at the very bottom of the table. If they're going to see any success this year, the three players I think that really need to do well. The third one's Wade Egan. Secondly, Tuivasa-Sheck, RTS. And the first one you might think is a bit strange, but hear me out. Tamari Martin. Tamari Martin has to lead this club. You look at their forward pack, right? And I'm just going to read you their forward pack, right? So you've got probably what's going to start is you've got Fisher Harris, Wade Egan, Mitch Barnett, Nikora, Kurt Capewell, and Aaron Clark.
Yep.
Right? On the bench is also Bunty Fowler. I don't like their bench. I think they're predicted down one bench.
Jackson Ford, maybe there.
He would be there. He's the new recruit. Bunty Fowler.
Depending who you ask, they might even give Dylan Walker a bit of a crack at lock.
Tom Ale, maybe. I just think when you look at that forward pack, if you're not leading that forward pack around in a way that allows you to do things, I just think Tamari Martin and Luke Metcalf fall, especially Tamari Martin, if falters in any way. And that's why I think this club's going to finish last. You can have everyone from the greatest fullbacks in the world playing fullback, and they've got Roger Tuivasa-Sheck there. He's a great player. He's not going to save the day. Nickel Clockstad will turn to the centres. Rocco Berry will be the other one. I just think that if they're going to see any success, Wade Egan needs to be up there, RTS needs to be up there, Tamari Martin needs to be up there. Outside of that, everyone else is going to do their job and do it well, but they have to be exceptional. I've got them last. Then
I don't think they'll come last. I don't think they'll make the 8. They're sort of that, 12, 13 kind of thing. I don't know. I feel like they've still got some quality players there, and they've still got some good players there. And if it meshes, they'll win some games. I don't think they're the worst team in the competition, though, Griffo.
I don't think there's a standout this year to be the 17, number 17 on the ladder. There's some contenders, but there's not an out-and-out standout there. This team, I think, is in that list of contenders. They were flying high in 23. They got the top 4. They played prelim final. There's some in those games. They regressed significantly last year. They lose their most damaging forward in Fanua Blake, and as you mentioned, the world's biggest vegetarian, Tofu Harris, who's gone. But yeah, he was sort of in and out of the team with injuries. So Fanua Blake is the big loss, more so than Harris. Yes, you could say they bring in, James Fisher-Harris as he is a replacement for Fanua Blake. He's a different style of player. Not as damaging in attack as what Fanua Blake is, but I don't know. Well, I've seen a lot of James Fisher-Harris, and I can't think of too many games where he played a bad one. He will be their leader, whether he's got the C next to his name or not. How far that's going to get them towards winning games, I'm not certain. Metcalf, for mine, is the key player. He's unfortunately suffered a lot of injuries. He's a real talent. And we saw that when he was on the field, that they were a better football side. I'm not overly confident in Tamari Martin as being a 7 who's going to get into the finals. I don't know if they're going to win the spoon, but I do believe that they're going to be struggling. I don't see them as a real contender for the 8.
Blockbuster to open the season. You guys all aware? Vegas.
I'm going to Vegas.
Are you going to Vegas?
Yeah, just over 2 weeks' time.
There we go.
Take it over, Donald.
Yeah. Well, don't worry about getting Trump. They've got the Chameleon there. Yeah. But the Warriors will play the Raiders, and this is one of those hypotheticals I don't want to get into the tips already because we've got that coming up in a couple of weeks. But it'd be very interesting to see how you guys feel when the Warriors come up against the Raiders based on what we've talked about here. Warriors Raiders. Obviously, I think the second game of that doubleheader might be a bit more interesting for you, mate. The Panthers and the Sharks there. That'd be an absolute belter. So, Warriors fans. Hoping that they prove us wrong, but I think the losses are too big to overcome compared to the gains. We'll head to Newcastle now, Shano.
Knights. Okay, I've got the Knights sitting just outside the 8. I've got them actually in 9th. So that's a drop from last year where they finished 8th. Someone's got to finish 9th, and I've got it as the Knights this year. Look, for them to break into the 8, the 3 players I think that need to play out of their skin and feature in the Daily M. Number 3, no surprises, Bradman Best.
Okay.
Bradman Best. If he can make himself available as one of the best centres in the game, they'll be there. I'm going to throw this one at you. Number 2, Adam Elliott, they're 13.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why I say Adam Elliott and they're 13, Jaden Brayley's their number 9. If there's one area I think that the Newcastle Knights have really struggled in is in the middle. and the defence in the middle. So I'm someone who's, if Adam Elliott is featuring heavily in the daily and points, it shows that they've tightened it up. But furthermore, he's actually added another string to his bow, and he's helping deliver the ball. He's playing that central figure that every good lock should play, and every lock to get you in the top 8 needs to play. So he needs to feature heavily, in my opinion. Number 1, guess it?
Caleb Ponga.
Caleb Ponga.
Caleb Ponga
needs to be there to play above.
Well, I'm interested just to see. This is one of those teams too where I've actually been reading a bit in the off season, and I don't know if I need to believe all the reports or whether they're just trying to create some things for me to click on when there's no footy. But it doesn't sound like they're 100% settled on their halves.
100% settled on their halves from week to week. Like,
yeah, but what I'm saying, they've got a whole off season and they can go, okay, we're going to do it. We're going to go, Gamble and Cogger. Do you think it's going to be one of those things where they're going to, would you be surprised if first round they have, say, a Gamble and a Cogger, it doesn't work, and then all of a sudden Crossland's in there, and then all of a sudden they go, oh, well, look, whatever, let's put, I heard Fletcher Sharp's been training at 5'8".
You've got Justin Hastings still on the books there. This has been their biggest problem, really.
I reckon they got one of those little cage things with the bingo balls, and they pick out the numbers at training.
But this is why they went so hard for their local junior to get him back to Peasant.
Yeah.
We know he is a quality player. Gamble, Cogger, Hastings, essentially Crossland. None of those guys, when given the opportunity to play in the halves, have consistently got the job done, and hence the changes. And they toyed with the idea of Ponga playing at 6, and then the concussions happened, and they decided, well, we're not going to go back there ever again. And now you mentioned Fletcher Sharp, who we know is a winger. Well, we know him in the NRL as a winger.
Yeah.
Even through the grades, he was a fullback. Played in their Jersey leg team that got beat by Penrith a few years ago. The year Penrith won everything. And he is a really good player, Fletcher Sharp. I don't know about, what sort of skills he's got to be a 5'8". But what it would do is give him more of an attacking option. Because Gamble, Cogger, Hastings, we'd probably classify them as steady players. Yeah, I think that's their big problem. Now, I think also they've got a bit of lack of depth now, especially with, Daniel Saifiti's gone. Thompson's going. I mean, he's still there this year. We're talking about this year. I don't know about this team. I don't see them making the 8. I think they did well to make the 8 last year. I'll be really surprised if they make the 8, and I sort of tend to think they're contended more for the bottom 4 than the top 8, to be fair. But, I could be wrong there. Ponga is a class player, one of the best in the NRL. How far they can go with his... when he's had injury-interrupted seasons, but when he's been on the field, he generally gets the job done. Bradman Best, Shane mentioned him as one of their keys. He obviously is. I was disappointed to read during the week that his younger brother is signed for a long-term contract by the Broncos. Apparently, the family moved to Queensland. He actually qualifies for Origin as a Queenslander. Played under 15s schoolboys apparently last year, and is very, very highly regarded. If he's, he's got the same genetics, so you'd expect he's going to have something. I mean, it's bad enough he's playing for the Broncos.
Could you imagine down the track? Wouldn't it be funny? Like, obviously, it's a big effort, but like, could you imagine having them opposing each other in Origin?
Who's the best of the best? But yeah, anyway, so that's a Central Coast boy that moved to Queensland and actually qualifies for the Queensland.
Mate against mate, state against state.
Yeah, apparently
brother.
and I listened to an extended interview from Bradman. The father actually, who played maybe lower grades at Manly, was originally from Queensland.
Oh, okay.
And was a sort of an Origin Queensland supporter. While it's well known that Bradman Bestie's come out, talks about how he can't stand Queensland and so on. And I love that sort of talk. It's taken it back to 20, 30 years ago, but it'd be interesting. Maybe one day we see one best in blue and the other best in maroon.
It'd be very interesting, but yeah, I think, like you guys said, they're another team who we're not expecting to make the 8, and if they were to make the 8, I think it would be a very, very successful season for them. A lot of work would have to go into that. The next team we're going to talk about are the North Queensland Cowboys. Yep. Probably the biggest talk in regards to signings would be that of John Bateman's there. We've got Carl Lawton, Kai O'Donnell, Jackson Paulo there. He's been around a few clubs. But I think there's some big players, obviously, of note that are leaving the club. Probably the biggest name that you'll see on this, Val Holmes, no longer with the club there. Still a lot of quality though, Shane. Still a lot of favourites of ours here on the podcast. Who are the 3 that you think need to fire?
The Cowboys. I've got the Cowboys. I've got them outside the 8 this year. I've got the Cowboys. They're in an 11th for me. They're a big slider for this year. I think they're going to slide. They're going to slide out of the 8. For me, I think the 3 players that need to feature heavily come Daly M. 3, Reuben Cotter. Number 2, Tom Dearden. And number 1, Scott Drinkwater. They're the 3 players that, for me, need to feature heavily. Jake Clifford sort of will wear the number 7. There's a young kid, I think Thomas Duffy. He'll be pushing for that halfback spot. I actually would not be surprised if we see Thomas Duffy in that. I think if they're going to be any success this year and they're going to push into the 8, you need to see Reuben Cotter, Tom Dearden, and Scott Drinkwater.
Yeah,
feature fairly prominently.
Big names though. Like I mean. This is one of those teams. Yes, as you said, they've been there or thereabouts. I think most people either in their analysis will have them just in the 8 or just out of the 8.
Yeah. Like I said, I've got them 11.
Yeah, and there's some players there too. Like we start to think like that have been there a while. It's almost like one thing they've done is like we've got a core group of players. Like Drinkwater's solidified there. Tom Dearden, I mean, he's probably, for me, I think, going to be that key player for them. He's like I think Griffo mentioned it earlier. He's actually cemented himself as one of the top players in this game.
Can I just say, John Bateman, who's surrounded himself in all sorts of controversy.
I don't know what to expect from him.
This guy's going to be their starting second rower.
Yeah.
Have a look at their team. I actually spoke to someone recently just saying that I think Cowboys are on the slide, and he was one of my first things to mention. I said, this guy's going to be starting second rower.
If he plays to his
with that on,
if he plays to his potential,
he will never ever reach the lights that he did at Campbell. I don't know what like all the stars aligned for him that year, but maybe his own hype. I don't know.
Yeah, but it'd be a fair slide.
11.
Because where they come this year, they'll in the top 8, 5th. So that's a fair slide. I mean, I'm just talking off the top of my head here. I know Shane's listed his top 8. People are going to go afterwards and say, "Oh, Grave, you haven't actually picked 8 teams to make the 8." I think they can just sneak into the 8. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I see them missing the 8-8. Last year they made the 8. They were really a roller coaster sort of team last year. They won some games that we didn't expect. They won games where they played poorly against, in some cases, ordinary sides, which they did enough. They've lost, as I mentioned earlier, they lost the bloom for the season, and also Tom Chester, who's one of their up and coming backs, both out with ACL. They also lost Finifuiaki, who mentioned before, and he would have been, I guess, the replacement for the Bloom, but he's gone. So I agree with Shane in his assessment of John Bateman. His best years, and he was a really good player. His best years are behind him. He was looking like he was going to go to the Rabbitohs at one stage there before he signed on with the Cowboys. I mean, it's turned out with the injury to the Bloom that's probably was handy for him. They do get on the flip side, they get Cohen Hess, who basically missed the season last year. He's back for them, but I just don't think they've got enough there. I think they've got Dearden, one of the best in the game. Drinkwater, Shane will mention. Yeah, I see him missing the 8. Missing the 8.
All right, no room in the 8 for the Cowboys from the Carpool Rugby League pundits here. Moving on from the Cowboys, the next team, there's a bit to talk about here with the Parramatta Eels. There are some player movements, probably the most notable one in the media. Josh Addo-Carr got a bit of talk there. There's Dean Hawkins, Zach Lomax is coming out of the club. That's a big one. There's also the young fullback from Penrith. Is it?
Yeah,
Owangi. I thought I'd look at you because you know his name, and I didn't want to make a mess of it. So look, a few players come in. We've talked a little bit about some of the players that are leaving. Probably most notable, as the fans would be agreeing here, I'd imagine, Clint Gutherson, someone who's been a mainstay and a big part of this team for a very long time. So, bit of a change here at Parramatta. They'll be hoping it's for the better, but I'd be interested to see, Shane, because I'm not quite sure myself if that's enough strike power.
Daily and 3-2-1. Can I start with this? If they have to see any success this year, Jason Riles will need to be coach of the year.
Yeah,
that's it.
He's got a big job ahead of him.
That's my first thing. If Jason Riles is coach of the year, they've had a good year. I've got them bottom of the table. I've actually got them coming through.
Oh, I thought you guys said
Warriors were mine.
Oh, they're towards the bottom. Yeah, I know what you mean. Sorry.
They're coming 15th. If they're going to see any success this year, I've probably got some.
Got them in the haze dumpster, do you?
Yeah, no, I've got them. And hear me out. Right? 3-2-1. Number 3 is Brendan Hands. He appears to be their hooker. He's going to have to play a very pivotal role in defence and attack. And
he might share that with Joey Lussick, maybe.
I think it's that. But what roles he's saying it's his job.
I've heard that too. I've heard that he wants Hands to play the whole time.
Number 2, Dylan Brown.
sense.
Dylan Brown has to play well. He just has to do what he does. He just has to elevate himself. And number one, have a guess. Zach Lomax. Zach
I
Lomax.
would have guessed Mitch Moses.
I think Mitch Moses is awesome.
He's key, but am I under the assumption that you think he's going to do? You don't have any issues.
Mitch Moses is going to do what Mitch Moses
You know he's going to do it anyway.
At number 4. If we're saying Zach Lomax is the best player for the Eels, he has rebelled at number 4. He has not only done everything that a centre should in defence and attack, but he's also scoring tries under the high ball. So he's added more strings to his bow.
Played a lot of wing last year, didn't he?
We played the whole season.
That's his position.
But that's what I'm saying like that.
Yeah,
I know he's played centre before, but
if he's featuring as their best Dally M prospect, and they're going well, it means that he has not only defensively understood the role of centre, but in attack, he's because being an attacking centre and defending well in centre is an art form. And if Zach Lomax can do that, plus do everything he does under the high ball, Parramatta, I've got them finishing at 15. They may finish better.
which is about where they finished last year. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, they're involved in Spoon Bowl, and when they won that game, they actually they jumped another team.
That was right. Yeah, they went ahead of.
Already
They
gets-
jumped south.
They jumped there.
Yeah.
Look, I think they're a contender for the Spoon this year again. If they can make the top 8, then Riles would be the coach of the year, because it's not just they let go of RCG, who I think was their player of the year last year. It's not just that; it's one of the players you mentioned has been your number 2 man, Dylan Brown, has been in the news for not necessarily the right reasons. I mean, he's been in the news before for the wrong reasons, and the club sort of stood by him because they knew he was talented. In a similar way to Ezra Mam, that if you're good, we'll
100%.
Yeah. He is good, but his performances don't match his pay packet. And certainly, I read this morning or yesterday, his asking price from the manager is 1.2 million.
Really?
Yeah.
That's I think it might have been this morning. I read that.
Yeah.
So
Got a long. Well, he'll have to be, right up there in the daily and premiership, even remotely.
he,
Hope his manager's good.
it's yesterday's article, but he's seeking 1.2 million a year from 5 rival clubs. It says now, at his best, he could be worth that, but we don't often see his best. We saw Moses out last year, and then Brown just didn't get the team fired. I think it's he's living in dreamland, or his manager is. But I go back to the inefficiency of this club in giving players these option contracts. They come out and say, they've signed him to 2031, and similar with Moses. But every second year they got to get out.
That's it. If you've got a get out clause, it doesn't matter how long you sign them for. It's like I think all the contracts are written in pencils these days anyway, and they just sit there with the eraser. But
It just promotes instability.
yeah, but I can see with you. I don't think Parramatta's going too far. Like you said, we're looking at a coach of the year and some really breakout performances here for this team to consider finals. One team who you will have to consider in finals are the Penrith Panthers.
Yes, most definitely.
Okay. I mean, let's just not extend this too long. Obviously, everyone's going to be looking at them as premiership contenders. The top 4. But just before you get there, Shane, I just want to remind some people there are some key personnel changes. A couple of key players coming in who will feature. Isaiah Papali'i coming in and Blaise Talangi. Obviously, I'd imagine a big signing there given the loss of Jerome Luai. Other players who we've talked about leaving the club, Fisher Harris, we've mentioned already. Other players that fans would have seen in Penrith jerseys featuring a fair bit over the past few years. Your Taylor May, your Tyrone Peaches, your Taruva's not there. Even some of the young and up-and-coming players, like we mentioned just there, we're talking about the Parramatta Eels and the opportunity there for their fullback, Jet Cleary. Obviously, people are going to keep a track of him.
Decimated over the last few years.
And it's one of those things where I think also too having those having such a good junior base and having such a large volume of good juniors, you can only keep so many of them. Looking towards the future, and there are some key players that people will be seeing in this squad that that are going to feature more in the future that I think you're going to talk about coming up fairly soon, Griffo. But I'll be interested, Shane, some big names obviously still in this side, and some that we'd expect to be doing well week in, week out. And I have a feeling you might have some other players that might need to complement them if they're going to win 5 in a row.
100%.
What do you call what's after a 4-peat? High five.
Pete.
Dynasty.
It is. And Panthers, I've got Panthers finishing second. I think they're going to be in the grand final with the Melbourne Storm for the third time.
It's safe.
The 3-2-1 that I've got, and hear me out. For the Panthers to finish, for the Panthers, they will finish well, but I think Blaise Talangi, number 3, he will have to.
He's their number 6 this year.
Play the role that Luai played. Number 2, Dylan Edwards. I think Dylan Edwards coming back off a shoulder injury. I think he's in light contact at the moment, but it's healing well. Should be there round 1. Can I say their number 1 is going to be my pick for the Daily M Player of the Year is Isaiah Yeo.
That's not a bad pick.
I just think that if that's 3-2-1 with people like Nathan Cleary, Leota, Kenny, Smith, Papali, Martin.
Yeah.
Everyone doing their job, Alamonte. I think that if Blaise Talangi's there or thereabouts, it shows he's complemented Nathan Cleary perfectly. He's getting good service to his outside backs. Dylan Edwards, it means he's come back from his injury, fighting fit, and he will be the fullback for the Blues. And Isaiah Yeo, I think, will be the Daily M Player of the Year.
And Blues captain.
Yeah,
very interested to hear your thoughts. I mean, they sound as though you're not 100% convinced that who the number 6 may be. I mean, obviously that Luai Cleary partnership has been key to this. There's probably also some other. I'd be imagining Alamonte and McLean to also be playing in the outside backs for this this team. Just first of all, while I'm talking about that 5-8, I'll be interested to hear your thoughts on what the talk is amongst the Panthers fans there, Chameleon, as to what's going to happen with this number 6 jersey, because it is a really key position for any club.
It is, yeah. Look, Penrith didn't chase Blaise Talangi. Blaise Talangi's manager chased Penrith, and with good reason. He saw that for his client that there was an opportunity there to go to a successful club and leave a club that was probably in a rebuilding phase. Again, it was one of these player option stupidities that the Eels had, and off he goes. But I am not convinced about on what I've seen of him. He cops a lot of criticism for his defence. I believe that will improve in the Penrith system. He needs to be a very good player for them. He had all the accolades coming through the junior system, and so obviously the kid's got talent. I want him to succeed, and I guess Penrith's long-term success in the future, he's key to that. If he's still only 19-ish, 20. So he's a young man. He's going to learn from Nathan Cleary, obviously, Isaiah Yeo, Dylan Edwards. They're going to point him in the right direction. He's going to use his skills that he's obviously got. You mentioned McLean earlier. There's two of those boys. Casey McLean, we saw him score 4 tries debuting for the Kiwis. He's a centre, but it's probably more likely he'll start on the wing initially. We saw Alan Motti come in when no one wanted him. Again, a junior of high repute. He played first grade with the Dogs, and then he was on the scrappy. Still as a teenager.
Yeah, I mean, he's still only, 21 now?
I think he's only just turned 20.
Yeah, okay.
He looks like he's 35.
Yeah, he's got one of those.
Yeah, but he's still a very, very young guy, and he was outstanding, particularly in the grand final. He stood up when some of the younger players in the Melbourne side probably gave him up.
It says a lot about the system there too, because I know you're making a point there, but it says a lot about the system where they come in, they're comfortable, and how they go. And I think you're also going to talk about, when you mentioned the McLeans, Jesse's the other McLean. He's more of a winger.
He is a winger. Yeah. So it's good that they've got some depth there, but I think probably, and poor Jesse McLean, he was the co-captain last year for the under-19s Blues, and he got knocked out early in the game.
Yeah.
No, he got an injury, and then he missed. He did get knocked out in that game, and then he got an injury when he came back. So he missed the latter part of the season. And his younger brother came in and did very well. He didn't play in the finals. I think there was an injury, someone came back, but anyway, he's a quality player, Casey, but also Jesse's very good. Isaac Tango, for most of last year, wasn't at his best. He was very good though when the big games in September and October we saw. He's a quality player.
Yeah, he's a lock for one of the centres.
Yeah. Whether he ends up in the forwards in the future, I'm not quite sure, but yeah, he'll be a starting centre. There's a question, obviously, about how do they replace James Fisher-Harris. Most of the pundits seem to think Lindsay Smith comes in as a starting prop, and Lindsay Smith did get on the field for 6 minutes for the Kangaroos.
Yeah.
He's a very good player, a different style of player.
Because you don't want to start,
You don't want to try James Fisher-Harris, and you're not a James Fisher.
And you don't want to start going, let's, because we've got a Sorensen and a Papali'i, let's put Martin into the front row. No. Like, you don't want to start, shuffling too many chairs there.
Fine. I would have Sorensen as a middle.
Off the bench in the rotation.
Leave Liam Martin as back rowers. You got Sorensen off the bench as a middle.
Rotate with Leota. Yeah.
You've got Liam Henry, who was very, very good last year.
Yeah.
Below that, I'm not quite sure what sort of depth they've got up front. I know Lurin Patea, he played a couple of games last year. Pretty good player. He played on the 19s Blues the year before. He's very similar type player to Moses Leota. He's not a big fella. You look at him height-wise, and everyone towers over him, but he's pretty handy bowler. So similar sort of player to Moses. I don't know too much about what other depth they've got. They've got obviously Matt Eisenhuth, who's not listed in what's expected to be a top 17, but they re-sign him for 2 years and he gets the job done.
It's like he's just been Mr. Dependable, just there to come in, isn't it? Like
Yeah.
I feel like he's the ultimate 18th man.
Well, he got a ring last year.
Yeah.
He deserved it.
Yeah, he's been a big part of that squad at the club. Just before we move on, I know we kind of went over it a bit when we were talking about the six when we talked about plays Talangi. If he's not the number 6, I know Schneider's still there. He's been great, sort of filling into that 7 when Cleary's not there. The other name I've sort of read a bit about is Jack Cole. I don't know. I don't know if there's. Is there enough to push for?
I think Jack Cole, and I like your insight on this, Griff. I think Jack Cole's going to be there 14 this year.
See, I don't say no to that. But to me, he's a 5'8" and not really a centre. Or
not really that utility.
To me, Talangi is more of a guy who can cover other positions. So, maybe you could throw in Jack Cole at 6, and if you get an injury, the outside backs or full backs out of Talangi, you go back there. But I don't know if that's the best use of the 14. You don't generally chop and change your 6 and 7. They do have also Dane Laurie as a guy who can play a few positions in the back line.
He could be a handy bench player, maybe.
So there's a few there. Again, I don't know beyond that what sort of quality there is.
You haven't mentioned Maverick Guy. He might.
Well,
it's
now or never, really.
He off contract at the end of this year?
At the end of this year. Yeah. So he played a bit of first grade last year. Came in, and then there were some injuries around that time, but he didn't make the squads come the end of the year when everyone was fitting well. So it's a big year for him. Obviously, if it doesn't work out, that's probably his last contract at the club. Whether he bulks up a bit more and becomes a middle, he did play in the back row last year. And but yeah, he's another guy that potentially could get in there. But Cleary's fitness is paramount. They got 3 guys sort of coming back from shoulder surgery. So the start of the year, interesting to see how they've got the big game, obviously in Vegas against the Sharks. They'll want to get off to a winning start. Last year they lost in round 1. In fact, the year before they lost in round 1 as well to the Broncos. So they've been able to overcome that setback and get things ship shape. But it's going to be interesting. Jack Cole may get the initial 6 jersey, and we might see Talangi, who's also himself coming back from injury. I don't know how his preparation's been and whether he'll be ready to go then as his starting 6. But I don't have him winning the comp this year. Taking my we're using with my head. But in saying that, the last 2 years I didn't tip him to win at the start of the year. What I will say is if they make it to October, they're a pretty good team.
Every chance. Every chance. And even if they don't get the minor premiership, we know that they get it sorted out by the.
If they haven't.
So they're serious contenders. My segue can't be speaking of serious contenders. I'm just looking at the look on Shane's face here. Strap yourself in, people. We're about to talk about the South Sydney Rabbitohs. Now, for those of you who are long-time listeners, you will know that both myself and Shane are very passionate about this team. Love them dearly. Yes, we bleed Cardinal and Myrtle. For South Sydney, last year was an absolute disaster. That's probably the best way to describe it. I'm going to talk about their games here. Ewan Aiken, Lewis Dodd coming in at halfback. Jamie Humphries, another player who's been a lot of talk about, coming from Manly. Josh Schuster could be the value buy of the year or could be, gosh knows. And also Jaden Sullivan. Did he end up signing? Did that become official? Anyway, I got him on the list here. Big losses, though. Some players that have been there for a very long time. Your Tom Burgess, Damien Cook. Jacob Gagai played a lot of first grade last year. He's gone. Dean Hawkins, people also have seen in the halfback, Lachlan Ilias. A lot of talk about him at the club. Tane Milne, Isaac Thompson. So quite a big change in personnel there. Probably the biggest change in personnel is the coach. And that's probably going to have the biggest impact. But for South Sydney, interested to see where you have them, interested to see your 3-2-1, and interested to hear your thoughts on the impact that the injuries and suspensions early in the season are going to impact them as they start the year.
Okay, so I have the South Sydney Rabbitohs. I actually have them in the 8. I've got them 7. I've got them as one of the
So they should be.
the movers of the year. My 3-2-1 will be very interesting to hear your thoughts, but the third highest is Josh Schuster, which means the experiment worked, which means he found a spot in the club. He found a place at the club, and he is playing the football which everyone believes he should be able to play. Number 2 is Campbell Graham. Campbell Graham is the second highest LEM recipient. It means he's over his injury. It means he's playing Blues. He's playing centre for the Blues.
Wow.
It also means that Cody Walker and Lewis Dodd are giving him early ball. He's not only defending properly, but he is also scoring the tries that we know he can score. And number 1's just no-brainer, Latrell Mitchell. If Latrell Mitchell is vying for the top Darian Points Award, then you know he's playing the football that he can play. Look, I'm going to start by saying this with South Sydney. I've got them at 7th. South Sydney need to be by round 10, 5-5. And you're probably thinking, what? 5-5? They have no Cam Murray at the start of the season. He's out with injury. Lewis Dodd is a total unknown. Did not play well at the start of the season in England. Was better. They've got also Jamie Humphries, who could also. Sorry, not Jamie Humphries. They've got. It'll come to me anyway. I'll keep talking. Jamie Humphries. He'll be looking. He's number 7. Tyro Munro will be on the wing, so you should see how he comes back from his injury. Isaiah Tass and Campbell Graham, they're 2 players that haven't played a lot of football in the last thing. Jack Whiten will be in the side, and I think Jack Whiten should play well. Cody Walker, if what I said unfolds, you know Cody Walker plays well, and Lewis Dodd has played well. Can I say this? If South Sydney do get their shit together, and they are able to play the type of football they need to play, when their captain's back, I think they're going to have the best bench in the competition. They're going to have either, if Schuster plays well, they're going to have either Schuster or Arrow goes to the bench with Havili, Tallis Duncan, and Sean Kepi. That's a bench.
I actually think they're the best.
I can't find a UNA team.
No, I
you know
think.
what I mean?
Yeah, depending on what size you go for, Kepi would only with that prop rotation, but yeah,
You know what I mean? So
there's position for this spot there, and
look, Mamas, this is all on the
that means blokes like
Mamazella
Post.
as well.
Mamazels. Now, I was going to ask you about him.
Yeah.
Now, I know we can go down a rabbit hole here. Pardon the pun.
Fun.
There's even talk about amongst Rabbitohs fans that Mamazels. I think he's going to get the go at number 9. He's obviously been the player who's been touted as number 9, and he's going to play number 9. But I don't think people are 100% sold on him as the long-term number 9. I don't think he has set the world on fire. I know he's been coming. He hasn't had a chance to be the hooker with Damien Cook there.
I think
I don't know if I want to put all my eggs in the Mamazilis basket.
two things.
Hope he does well, but I'm not super
Two
confident.
things with Mamazilis. Two things with Mamazilis. Number one, I felt that our previous coaching staff played a style of football that was purely for Cook and no one else, which didn't allow him to shine. That's living proof why they got rid of Taff. I also think that Mamazelos is not the running hooker that Cook is. He's more the probing, get out of dummy half. He's a very good defensive player, but he's very much about getting out of dummy half, probing. He's like Isaac Luke. He's the Isaac Luke style of hooker. The short answer is if he doesn't do well immediately, Havili is there.
I think I'm also hearing that in the off season, Jamie Humphries has been doing a lot of work at hooker.
I would think a lot of the stuff I've seen online. I haven't been to a South training session this year. I think what Wayne Bennett's looking for is this probing hooker who can deliver very good ball. And if you remember when he came to South Sydney the first time, and in our first in the year where we made the grand final against Penrith, Cook wasn't this running insane hooker. He was this probing hooker that would look for gaps for his other players. Look, with Josh Schuster, I could have drawn a line next to it and wrote Keon Kolomatangi. Keon Kolomatangi, if he makes the Blues squad, you know the South Sydney's doing well. Cody Walker needs to do things. But Damien Cook has big shoes to fill. But I'm going to say this, and it's going to be highly controversial, and you're going to hate me for what I'm about to say. There were so many opportunities for the players of the likes of Reynolds, Cook, and whoever to win a competition. And I can count, and sadly, it's more than to count on one hand how many times they failed. It's now time for a clean out at South Sydney, and for them to understand that this is maybe the start of a new era and a new bunch of players. Alex Johnson, he won't be back for a little while, so South Sydney fans know he's going to be without him. Yeah, I think if Schuster's playing, if Schuster's in the mix, you know the experiment worked. If Campbell Graham's in the mix, you know that the halves have worked well for him to do his job in Latrell Mitchell. If he's in the mix, well then everything's right with the universe.
Do they have enough to get into the 8?
I expect they will be in the 8. They've got the squad. Obviously, it's reasonably similar, but there have been changes both in and out, as you mentioned. They've got that coming back, and they wouldn't go back there if we didn't think they're a chance of doing something. Schuster's been talked about. I think he's the joker in the pack. That he's got phenomenal talent that's been largely wasted to this point in his career. Fully agree. He is a guy who I would expect will come off the bench and can change a game with his skill. Obviously, defensively, he lacks a bit, but I think he'll fit into the South Sydney style of play pretty well. Campbell Graham, as Shane mentioned, coming back after a year out. So they played the whole year last year without him. He's going to make a difference. Missing Cam Murray at the start's going to be a slight problem for them, but he will come back. They've got, Duncan there to cover at lock or below the tongue. There's too much talent in this squad for them to fail again. And they've failed for a couple of years. I do see them making the 8. And realistically, threatening to win the comp if they fire. But consistency's been their problem.
Yeah.
The talent is there. I'm sure the desire will be there, and Sharon mentioned Latrell as his key man. Well, Latrell's lost some kegs. He's lost the beer gut, and
They call it Trell Fit. Not Trell Fit, Trell Fit.
Not Fat Trell.
so yeah, I mean, he's the key. He can be the most devastating player in the NRL when he's on, but the problem's been that he hasn't been on too much in the last few years, and
Too many confidence players in this squad. Too many players when the chips are down. They just, like Cody Walker. You get to a point in the game where if they get under his skin and he's starting to niggle, you know they're buggered.
and other teams know that.
Yeah.
Bennett being there is going to help with that. Talent-wise, they're top four. The question marks are there because they've failed in the last 2 years, but it's not for a lack of talent. They had a horror run with injuries last year. They shouldn't have finished 16th, but obviously some coaching issues. I do expect them to make the 8. And they're a potential top 4 team. And we shall see. We shall see. I was going to say long suffering fans, but it's not.
Nah, that's been pretty good.
Not long ago they played in the grand final.
No, and
They
you know
were
what?
consistently making the prelim finals. I think about 4 years in a row.
It's not like that run from 1990 through to the
71. That's true.
Look.
And I think that they not to labour the point because we'll talk about it, but they're a club that now have no excuses.
Yep.
And that's why they should make them.
Yep, and with Bennett there, it's one of those things where they're saying the talent's there, they just need something to bring it together. Hopefully for them, Bennett's the glue. Speaking of a team,
Previous Bennett team coming up next.
yes, the Dragons. Player movements. Now, talk about their signings. We just talked about a few of those guys. Damien Cook coming over from South, Lachlan Ilias coming from South, Clint Gutherson from Para, Val Holmes from North Queensland. Some big names there. We also mentioned earlier on some of the players leaving. We'll talk about Jack Bird soon enough, but Max Feeney, Ben Hunt, Zach Lomax leaving. Geez, they do have some names, some household names coming into this squad, but I don't know if it's going to be enough. Interested on your thoughts for the Dragons because a lot of the talk I've had with people that follow rugby league is that they're not expecting a lot from the Red V this year.
Well, I've got the Dragons finishing at the in the bottom 4. I've actually got them finishing.
I'll go for this.
I've got them 16th. So I've got them finishing
One off.
Yeah, I've got them finishing 16th. So they'll finish 16th. They're in the bottom 4. I got them finishing there. For them to show any signs of success this year, I've got the Dragons. Number 3 on the data will need to be Damien Cook. He'll need to find some form of not from the last couple of years, but before then. Lachlan Ilias will need to just... We forget Lachlan Ilias started his career as a centre who became a halfback, so he'll need to show that he is a genuine halfback. He was playing some good footy in Reggie's until he broke his leg. It was ugly, very ugly. So he's coming back from a very serious injury. But for me, it's Clint Gutherson. Clint Gutherson just needs to be by far and above the best. I looking at this side, I know Val's there, Tyrell Sloan, Kyle Flanagan, Lachlan Ilias. If Kyle Flanagan and Lachlan Ilias were your 6 and 7, you'd pretty much be ready for 2020.
That's what worries me. They don't. It's not so you've got.
Sally, good player, Jacob Little, Tom Eisen, who of course is a massive fan of our Tyrell Sloan, shift
from one to the wing. This is what does my head in with this side, right? Okay, you've got Val Holmes and Moses Suli are your four. Sorry, I'll start again. You got Christian and Val. You got Christian, Val, Moses Suli, Tyrell Sloan, right? Why is if Tyrell Sloan was this big, imposing, threatening fullback, you've shuffled him to the wing. Why not? Why can't he find a spot in the centres? Look, I just look at this side, and I actually think it's a tapestry of players who have shown in certain times absolute brilliance, but as a collective,
Is this one of those that have to try and make chicken salad out of chicken shit kind of situations?
I've got the Dragons finishing above the Warriors, but they could be spoon bowl again.
I think there's spoon. But the thing is, I look at those players and I go, "There's players in there that are too good to play in a wooden spoon team." But I just don't see a click. It's this weird, like you said. They're the patchwork quilts, aren't they? They're just like, oh, we've got this, we're throwing it together, hope it works. I don't know, are we being a bit hard on them?
Look, I tipped them for the spoon last year, and they should have made the 8. They were in position about 2 or 3 weeks out where they were in the 8, and they had what was seemingly easy draw. They played the Eels and some other teams that were out of contention and lost. Ended up missing the 8. It's got a bit of a dad's army look about it.
Yeah.
Flanagan's got a different approach to most coaches. He likes to buy a player who's probably
in their
30s. But he signed up Gutherson, Holmes, as experienced players, and they already had a few there. Cook as well was the other one. All of them plus 30. There's a question mark now over Francis Molo. He wants out as of a few days ago. Does that clear the way for Matt Lodge to get a proper contract and sign there? To be honest, I think Matt Lodge would be a better prop than I don't know, rate Frank Molo all that highly. I don't know why he wants to leave, but this team, they'll win some games, but I don't think they'll win too many. Last year, they did win some games we didn't expect them to. They were able to put on a power game, and that was they won games with their power game. I don't know if they'll be able to do the same thing in 25. I've got them definitely missing the 8.
Yeah.
But also, I think they're a bottom 4 chance. I haven't sat down and listed in order what my top 8 is and all the way through to 17, but I just can't see this team getting anywhere near the top 8. Although they surprised last year and did get close.
I'd love to see that. It is a bit like that. It's like they've almost got. There are a few young boys there, but the majority of the side are north of 28 years old.
Yeah.
I'm still imagining, you might have players like, DeBellin, he'd be in his 30s. I mean, even, Tom Eisenhuth would be in his 30s. Jaden Sewer's been around a long time. He's 27. Leilua, he's 28.
Yeah.
I'm just doing the quick, look around here. But, they've got... And the thing that worries me too is that quite a few of these aging players are in their forward pack, and I worry how that's going to go. With the way the game is these days.
Good young guys coming through. there's about 3 of them that played 19's Blues side. Big Loco Pacifica Tona is expected to challenge for a prop spot.
He's huge.
He is.
I'm just looking at his stats here, just for the it's a big name for everybody.
Yeah.
For those who aren't aware, I'm just looking at his stats in regards to like physical attributes. 121 kilograms. On the old scale, 6'5". That means more to me than 196 centimeters. Still only 19 years old. From New Zealand, but eligible for the Blues, which is always good to see. So big player. So it'd be good to see, like, you know, that's a really good counter argument to my point where we've got some aging forwards here. Yeah. You get some young, fit.
I'm trying. Daniel, I think it's Daniel Harangahu or something similar. That he's in the mould of the David Fafita, reasonably low to the ground, but built very, very solid. He's a Penrith junior, and got an injury at a young age, and Penrith didn't sign him for whatever that year level was, but it was SG Ball, whatever it was, and he found a spot at the Dragons. Played for the 19's Bulls last year. Played for Australian schoolboys. Very good player. I'm not sure is listed at all. Or sorry, I'll just look back on it.
No, you're right.
He's definitely not in the top 30 like Local is. Just looking at their development list, he's not on that either. But he will come through and be a big player for them over the next few years. So they've got young guys, maybe just need another year or two, and these aging forwards that they've got will move on. But
be interesting to see the squad in say 2 or 3 years like that.
Yeah. But as far as 25 goes, then I don't see him doing anything really.
No. The next club we're going to talk about. We'll talk about the Roosters next.
Yep.
Big club, obviously. They're always in the chat. Even when you think they're going to slide down the ladder, they always end up there or thereabouts. Last year, we know they were a top 4 team. This year, I've heard a lot of people suggesting they may slide back a little bit in the rankings on the ladder at the end of the year. What say you, Shane? Are they still a top 4 team, or do you think they lose a bit of ground?
Okay, I'll say the first ground. So, in my opinion, they're going to finish in 8th spot. I've got them at the bottom.
Just in.
So, scraping to the 8th for me. Only because they're the Roosters, so down 3. Down from 3, sorry. For me, the 3 players this year that will need to fire for them to see success. Number 3, Angus Crichton. I think he will fire. I think he'll play. He will be a New South Wales player this year. Number 2 has to be Chad Townsend. They've got some injury concerns in the halves. You've got Sandon Smith and Chad Townsend. That's the halves combination until Walker is back. So he has to fire early, give them a reason for him to stay, and then do well. And finally, for them to be anywhere or thereabouts, James Tedesco has to find the form of yesteryear. He has to be pushing to be the Blues fullback. I don't think he will be, but he has to be pushing to be the Blues fullback. That's the key for success for them. They've got a good coach. They've got good systems. They've got a lot of good things happening. They've got their rugby recruit who's going to be interesting to watch. I've got them 8. I wouldn't be surprised if they miss it. They are significantly less than what they were. This also on top. This also including that. I think that Connor Watson will be their number 9. I don't think we may see Brandon Smith play for this club. So, with all that in consideration, I think we have the Roosters. I've gone to the bottom of the 8, and geez, they made a slight further.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, I think they're a top 8 team, but yeah, it's a funny one this year, isn't it? Like you look at the sides and you think, yeah, they're going to slide down, but I'm trying to think who sort of slots into the top, that top 4 sort of position to replace them.
The key question I had to myself when I did my ladder and everything, when I look at this Roosters team and I look at who's in it and I look at their team, do the Knights have a far more established team than the Roosters? And I just said, well, they're the Roosters, that they'll finish ahead of the Knights. But looking at it, there are some players who will have to play out their skin this year.
Yeah.
For them to make the 8.
And this is where
they should win half their
this is where you're expecting the likes of, say, the Sea Eagles and Brisbane to sort of move up. And the team that's going to make the expect is
they'll fall down.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, the Roosters are the Roosters, though, sometimes, aren't they? we write them off and then they come out.
This is not the Roosters of old. This side
Last year, I thought they were, at the start of the season, I think I might have tipped them to win hot, based on the squad that they had. And they didn't really fire. They did have some late season injuries, clue injuries, which basically killed their season. The stats about them not being able to beat the Storm and the Panthers kept coming up, and we just saw those were added to in the late season games. And that was, as I said, they did suffer. The Walker injury was the biggest problem for them. He was having a really good season.
He was very good season.
And he's not going to be back till late in the season this year. So their biggest problem is around the halves. If you said your halves are Sandon Smith and Chad Townsend, you'd probably think, well, that's number 17 of the list of halves that any team's got. Maybe the Elias Flanagan combination challenges, but you can't make a top 8, I wouldn't think, with that halves combination. And Sam Walker won't be back till late in the season, and I think maybe the Roosters might be already out of contention by that stage. They do still have a good forward pack with depth, but the loss of Jared is a big one, even though he didn't necessarily play a huge number of games last year. It's just his presence within the squad, even when he wasn't on the field, was important. But maybe they will surprise. It would be if they can make the 8 here, then they've done very well. And they would have to have some of these younger guys coming through, the likes of Robert Toyer, who I believe is a very good centre. They've got Mark Tuase. I think he may have debuted late in the season.
Yeah,
and
he'll be Joey Manu's.
Is he someone that they can hang their hat on as maybe the unknown quantity that we're selling them short, but he's the one that will come through?
Big shoes to fill. But he's got to play well. He's got a big opportunity here to play in the centres. But it's a tough spot to come in this side. And like you guys said, I think just the personnel not only leaving the club but missing. If we were looking at the Roosters squad last year and we said, look, they're going to be without Walker, Smith, Manu, and Maria Hargreaves this week, you go, Yeah, it's too much loss for them to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what the biggest loss is? Luke Keary. Luke Keary is the biggest loss to this club. He was their point of reason. He was the guy that would just calm the ship. Him going to Catalans is what's going to sink the Roosters this year.
Well, look, I think we're all in agreement that they're on the slide.
And you know the other thing for the Roosters that makes me think they're in trouble? In the last 2 weeks, they've been canvassing a series of players from other clubs to see if they can get them released to play for the Roosters. Roosters don't panic. I've never seen the Roosters panic. That year they finished like
they're another club with a system, and
that year they finished, they were woeful. They did not panic. They're starting to panic. That's the difference.
All right. Well, one team to go.
One team go.
We got the Tigers. So yes, this is alphabetical.
Much about this team over the summer.
No, and we're not doing them last because of position. It's alphabetical. But just going through some of the players, and look, there's some players here, some big players coming over to the club. That's Jerome Luai. I'll talk about him coming from Penrith, a long-term contract. Jack Bird signed with the club. Royce Hunt from the Cronulla Sharks, a player we talked about a lot over the past few years. Tyrell May from the Roosters. Skelton from the Bulldogs. Taruva's coming over from Penrith. There are a few players. Yeah, I mean, big Stefano is the big loss there.
I think they're more than covered for sure.
They had
with Hunt and Mann.
Yeah, and look, I'd imagine, Hunt to come straight into this team, and playing in the front row. But it's still one of those teams where there's a few standout players. You got players like Justin Olam, but then you look through the side and you think, geez, there's also going to have to be some meshing of players, some younger players. It's going to be a squad effort, I think, for this team to do well. The Wooden Spooners last year, it's only up for them, and I know that you've already told us who your Wooden Spoon is, Shane, so I'm guessing they're moving up.
Teams outside the 8. I've got them coming 11.
Love it.
Yep. For me, the team for me the 3-2-1 for the teams that will need to fire, and it's going to surprise you. I know. Number 3, Appy Coruscant. Appy's. I know he's suspended to round 2, but injured. I'm actually. I know he's suspended to round 2, right?
So he misses the first week, does he?
You know.
They play Newcastle or Campbelltown.
You know what? I'm very
worst game
to find who does in that position. Because if he can cement himself as solid, he could be the number 14 for them. Number 2, I've got Jareen Buller.
Right.
Jareen Buller has a sensational season, puts himself out there, then that's it. And he's going to be and number 1, I've got Lachlan Galvin. Lachlan Galvin, if he can be the best player, daily and wise for them, well, then they're going to go a long way.
So it'll be him and Luai in the halves.
Well, I know the first question will be, why isn't Luai there? I think Luai's going to do what Luai does. Can I put this out there for the listeners? If Jerome Luai is the standout player for the Tigers, it shows that everyone else is failing. It shows that he has to steer the ship. It shows that he's doing everything, and they're wooden spooners. Like, let's face it, in Penrith, I'd say, and I don't think I'm out of turn in saying that he was a brilliant player for Penrith. Yet, daily and wise, well, he wasn't exactly featuring. He did his job exceptionally well, and I think that's what you want from him at the Tigers. I think if we can say that Appy K is up there vying for the hooker of the year, Dream Buller is up there vying for the fullback of the year,
and Lachlan Galvin is up there vying for half of the year, then they've done their job. And Jerome Luai is being a perfect supporter of that. And look, I think that's what they're going to need to reach success in 2025.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at this side, it's
If you put the name, Taruva, Olam, Dwayne, Skelton, Galvin, Luai, Hunt.
yeah. So you got Taruva on the looking at where they all fit in here. You got Taruva on the wing with, I'd imagine, Olam and Dwayne centres. Is that what we're assuming they're gonna?
I don't know what they're going to do.
Because it's almost like we've got.
They don't have standout centers. Mullen, he didn't have a great year last year.
He had that good start and just sort of faded away.
And then he got an injury, but he's
Did they?
best days are long behind him. The Storm.
Is it possible that he can't make the Tigers side and they end up with Taruva and Dewey as centres?
Can I say Taruva's wasted on the wing?
Well,
I think he's wasted on the wing.
It's almost like they've got to go, okay, we've got this, let's make it work. Is that how it feels for you guys?
Yeah, how these pieces of the jigsaw fit together. Yeah, the way he always a question mark about his fitness, injury-wise. Yeah, how do they put those bits and pieces together in the back line? I'm not entirely sure. They do have a solid forward pack, with the likes of May and also Royce Hunt coming into the squad. The Finer brothers involved there. Alex Saitfarth was good for them.
Yeah.
Quite up front as well. Talon Basil was a talented player who will play 9 in round 1 in place of the suspended Sound. I don't understand the Jack Bird signing. This was a guy that the Dragons were happy to let go. And Flanagan was his coach when he had him at the Sharks and they won the comp. And then for Flanagan not to have the confidence in him to be able to get the job done, I don't know what the Tigers were seeing in him. And this is another guy whose career has been plagued by injuries and was really good early in his career when he was out the Sharks. He went up to the Broncos and then just a series of injuries ever since have hampered him. But I think it's very on set. You couldn't, in most clubs, you could say, okay, here's your 1 to 13, if not your 1 to 17.
Yeah.
In this club, there's a number of pieces.
You don't know.
That I'm not quite sure how they fit together. Obviously, the key positions, they're sorted. Fuller at fullback, Galvin 6, Luai 7, and Appy at 9.
Yeah. And I think you could, like you said too, like the forward pack, Hunt and Clammer up front, Safer. Yeah, but yeah, there's a lot. There's positions up for grabs in this team, which you'd hope with with where they've been last year and looking for an improvement, that the players will rip in, and you don't know.
Well, I've heard some pundits putting them in their top 8.
Wow.
I don't see.
I wouldn't go that far.
I don't see that.
10th or like I don't see going in the 8th. Like you could have them like 11th or 12th, and which I think would be a good.
I think.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're winning the spoon this year.
Nah.
If they win the spoon this year, then well, you'd have to think he's under immense pressure because they've actually got a decent squad. Even though we talked about how particularly the back line puzzle fits together, I'm not sure, but they've got the good spine. They've got a strong forward pack.
Those key positions are, and then the rest built around it.
Yeah, they'll expect to make the eight. If you're not expecting to make the eight, then you may as well not.
Yeah, that's right.
They'll definitely win more games than what they've won in the last few years. So with this squad, I don't know who's going to win the spoon. I'd be more confident about who's coming first with the Melbourne Storm than I am about who's coming last.
It's more so that you got about 5 or 6 teams we go, I can't see them making the 8, and it's just a bit of a
And this is
the spoon bowl might be on again.
Yeah, well, I've got the Tigers in probably not making the 8. I can't see.
No,
it'd be a phenomenal,
but not the spoon
if they could.
Not the spoon.
But if they can make 9th, 10th, 11th, that's a significant improvement.
Yeah. Sounds good. Well, that's all the teams previewed, guys. I think that might just about do us.
Sounds good.
Sounds good. All right. Well, thank you for listening, everyone. In true form, we're a smidge under 3 hours, fellas. We're just ticking on to.
We've not had a podcast for a while, and a lot to talk about. Again, you don't have to listen all at once. You can listen to bits and pieces. Go fast forward if you want to hear about your club.
That's exactly right, and that's true. That's what we're here for. Someone looks and goes, "Oh, I don't know, 3 hours." I mean, obviously we're telling you this at the end, so you've listened to the end. But given that we don't have footy until the 2nd of March, it's just a bit of a preview here to let you guys know what's going on. Obviously, we'll be back before the start of the season. There'll be plenty happening. Pre-season challenge, round 1 There's plenty to talk about before the footy starts.
I'll be a possible Las Vegas correspondent.
Yes. We might have to get you on
on
Zoom, get some reception there.
The timeline works out.
I'd like to know how many Rugby League podcasts are actually, sending someone over to Vegas.
I'd say there's one of the others, but they're on bigger budgets than what we're on.
Although I don't know, I'm looking at the feed Shane's putting on now. I reckon that it's a pretty big budget feed. But we appreciate you guys being with us. Appreciate you guys sticking with us and your enthusiasm in the off season. And it's a goodbye from Graham.
Goodbye from the Chameleon, and thanks for joining us.
Here it is. See you guys. Take care.
Bye-bye.